I'm going to turn that off.
All right, here we go. 3, 2, 1.
Boom! Welcome to the Big Honker Podcast, brought to you by Gundog Outdoors. I'm Jeff Stanfield with the world famous Andy Shaver.
Jeff's like he's been drinking some of that coffee or
Right,
something.
he got
He's
that
shot out of a cannon.
No,
right
I'm
now.
answering text about your dumbass thoughts on the do's and don'ts of public hunting. That's been quite the subject today with me.
That's all right.
And everybody has said 100% they agreed with me and not with you. So
Well, that's
we're
fine,
not shocked by that.
100%.
100%. Everybody said if someone takes you hunting on their place, public or private, if you go back without them and try to hunt them, you're a no good, sorry son of a bitch.
You
That's
are
right.
no good.
There
yeah.
you go. So see there. With us today, we have a trio of gentlemen here. We have a good friend of mine, James Steinbeck from the Avenues.
That's right.
I got Dobie Kosub
You did it right, sir.
from Wichita Falls, and you are the prosecuting.
I'm the criminal chief of the Wichita County DA's office.
So if you fuck up, you're the guy they talk to, or they deal with.
Eventually.
If someone has to see you come to their house with a pad and a pen, they are not happy, probably.
No, yeah, you're in a bad situation.
And Mr. Sheehan, Brian Sheehan, Rotan Yellowhammer.
Go Hammers.
What is your job with Wichita County?
I'm the supervisor in charge of crimes against persons at the Wichita Falls Police Department.
So if someone jacks with a cop, you're the guy they deal with.
I'm the guy.
Okay. All right. We're going to start in. You and James, how's y'all's relationship? Did you prosecute James?
Couple times.
A couple times. Is James, of all the people you've prosecuted, do you have a relationship with any of the other ones?
I've never been asked that question.
That's because you're on the Big Honker Podcast.
That's
We
right.
do that kind of stuff.
There are two other people that I've run into from time to time back home that were they were both female, that were somewhat in a similar situation to Mr. Steinbeck, and they've gone on to have some success in their life, but nobody like James.
Have you met anyone like at a Walmart that threatened to whip your ass after you seen them 10 years later?
I got a lot of dirty looks.
Yeah. A small town judge, I deal with everybody. So everybody I deal with, I see all the time. So it's not that big a deal to me.
Right.
You know, but so you've never had anyone that got, because a guy that was at judge school I went to 15 years ago, he talked about that he was at Walmart in Denton, and a lady and a guy come up behind him, and a guy was bad mouthing him that he had put him in jail.
No, I had a little situation recently where a fella got convicted of capital murder, and his dad decided he needed to make his feelings known on social media.
Oh,
So he threatened you.
Oh, I don't know if he threatened me directly, but
You don't worry about that
Yeah,
stuff, though.
yeah.
no. I
how
don't.
long did that
Yeah.
take? Because I would be paranoid all the time, knowing that.
Let me tell you though, guys, man, that's the reason. That's what separates Dobie to me is because if you've ever had to deal with Dobie in a courtroom, then you learn two things about him. One is he's fair, right? He's honest and fair. That goes a long way with, even if you're, because there's such thing as honor among thieves, right? So even in the world that I come from, it matters that somebody is being the way they solid in what he does, right? So that makes a difference. So when you see him out, you don't hold no ill will towards that, right?
Because you screwed up.
He was
he
just
didn't.
doing his job.
Right, he's doing
Yeah.
his job. He's
Yeah.
not treating you like a dick. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? So that's different. There's some prosecutors that do, right, and look down on you, and those guys get what they get. He's not one of those.
So see, there it speaks highly of you.
So how do you get to where you are today? I mean, were you just a stud in law school, and then what made you go this path rather than the millions of other paths that you could have taken?
It's absolutely the opposite. I wasn't a stud in law school, so I didn't get picked up by some big highfalutin, high-dollar firm.
Right.
But I don't want to bore you guys, but this is what's true. I walked into Texas Tech School of Law on the first day wanting to be a prosecutor. 97% of the class said the same thing. After 3 years, 97% of them wanted to make money,
Yeah.
and I still wanted to be a prosecutor. And so I I've been doing what I've wanted to do for my entire career.
Where do you make the most money? Is it defense? Is that where you make the most money? Is it on that side, or is it just getting with the right law firm?
I think you make the most money someplace other than Wichita Falls.
The most money to be made is by marrying money.
Criminal defense obviously probably would be because somebody's going to pay whatever it takes to defend their freedom, right? But maybe at a higher level, corporation level defense, in a criminal case.
I'm a small town Texas boy. I don't understand what it means to make a lot of money.
Right.
Never had it, never saw it, didn't know about it. Get into this when you get out in the real world and realize how much money there is out there to make.
It's insane.
It is crazy, and we don't do that in Wichita County.
We were talking just my wife. God, I love her to death, but she's very naive in the ways of the world. And we were talking the other day because Jeff and them just got back from New England and saw Rockefellers and Vanderbilts, the houses that they came from. And my wife was like, "Why would you do that?" And I'm like, "You don't understand the amount of wealth that is out there today and the amount of wealth that they had back then. Like, they had money to burn. A 60 bedroom house was."
They didn't have nothing else to spend
They
it
had
on.
5 of those.
Right. Yeah. They had summer houses.
But they didn't have private jets to spend it on. They didn't have Gucci bags and
They
stuff.
spent it on homes.
That was the only
trains
thing
and shit.
to show how big a dick they had right then, was to show they had a lot of money. So this is not going to be politically correct. At least your first day at law school, my buddy Chuck Smith that we talked about a minute ago, his first day at law school, he has his car stolen. But that's the difference between Houston and Lubbock. He never told you that story, did he?
He never did.
Yeah, he got his car stolen. He called me that day.
From Houston?
Somebody stole
Houston's
my car.
motherfucker, boy.
He said,
What, man?
walked around the parking lot 4 or 5 times.
I had a truck stolen. It was on a trailer in Houston, and it was parked at my cousin's apartment complex just for a Saturday night. Right, it was a drag truck, and I disconnected the from my Suburban, changed it up to a dumpster and stuff in the apartment complex. If we went out that night, came back the next morning, it was gone. Right, so I filed all the crap, and then about a month later, I don't hear nothing. Go down there to get with the Houston police. I'm like, hey, what are the odds of me getting my truck back? He said, well, I can't give you odds, but I can tell you that last week we had 3 police cars stolen from right outside of the back. I said, oh my God. I said, well, I guess that's gone then. I'm out of there.
I'm glad you told me about that, about Chuck. I did not know we had something in common.
Because your car got stolen when you were at law school too?
Yes, sir.
In Lubbock.
Really?
In Lubbock, yeah.
What were you driving?
A Mazda 626.
Why in the hell would they steal that?
I can tell you why. I know exactly why.
Why?
Because the keys were in it. But that's not what was important. That was not what was important. What was important was that was in 1998, and Dave Matthews and Tim Reynolds were on a tour, an acoustic tour by themselves.
Yeah.
And I had put tickets to a show that I had scalped in the glove box because I didn't want to get to New Mexico and not have tickets.
Right.
And there went the car.
And they were with the car.
So somebody got a free car and some tickets to a concert.
Yeah, but they didn't show up at the concert because I still went. And the guy I scalped them from talked the front office into giving me some more. They were front row seats, I was as close to you as right now as I was to Dave Matthews and Tim Reynolds. And I missed that car.
You missed the car.
You wasn't there thinking about your car though, was you? Was you that Dave Matthews?
No, I was
thinking. Oh man, that messes it up, don't it?
He's kind of going crazy a little bit, Dave Matthews.
Oh, he has, sure.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't. There was some video circulating, like he's looked like he was like possessed on stage, just doing these weird dances and all sorts of stuff.
But he's been doing that for.
Man, he's always done that.
That's
Ever since
just-
I've ever watched him play, he does.
Yeah. He's good though.
Yeah.
I love his music.
John Mayer.
What was he
same way.
like live and acoustic? Was it even better?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
it was.
That's ridiculous, man.
So you're a music guy?
Try to be.
Okay, we got a quote. We have a couple of battles on here we disagree on. Who's the greatest guitar player of all time?
I'm kind of coming around, so
I mean, give me context here.
just the best.
The best.
The best
when
of all,
you-
man.
when you
Have you ever
think-
heard some of those guys that play the Mexican music? Those guys that play 12-string guitars sometimes are way
I've sang-
more technical than
I've
like,
sang La Cucaracha in Puerto Rico with a band one time. So, but
okay, there you go.
But no, the rock and roll.
Rock and roll.
I mean,
Rock
if
and
we're
roll.
going to talk acoustic, Roy Clark's one of the greatest guitar pickers of all time. if we're
Vince
that.
Gill.
Yeah, but
Vince
we're
Gill.
talking guitar players. Rip.
I said Prince. I'll
I
just
said,
let you know who
I said Eddie Van Halen. Because I don't think there's anybody any better than Eddie.
Oh,
Van. There's some as
Steve
good as Eddie, but there ain't nobody any better than.
I mean,
Eddie.
but there's guys like Steve Vai. There's Jeff Beck.
But how do you get away from Stevie Ray Vaughan?
Stevie
Right.
Ray Vaughan.
Stevie Ray
Ian
Vaughan.
Stevie
Moore-
Ray
Ian
Vaughan was a good
Moore.
one. He's a top 5 too. But I say Eddie Van Halen was the greatest. And then Andy goes, well, has Eddie Van Halen played
Lindsey
anybody else's
Buckingham?
music? Eddie Van Halen can play anybody's
No.
music or could have.
What all started this is I edit these podcasts, and a lot of times I'm up late at night, and I'm on YouTube. I upload it to YouTube, and Prince was playing a cover of something, and he absolutely just destroyed it and made it his own. And I thought, my goodness. And I've never seen Eddie Van Halen. I've never seen it on YouTube. That's the whole thing that brought it up. And that's why I said, has Eddie Van Halen ever played anybody else's
Listen,
stuff?
have you ever seen Adam Levine's remake of Prince's
Purple Rain?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So see what I'm saying? Even in that context, that dude Adams played that better than Prince did. Right
Yeah.
there, right? He's brilliant with that.
Yeah,
so
but
there's just so many
hold
brilliant guitars when it comes to that level, man.
Purple Rain?
Purple Rain.
Dude.
Oh, look up when
Look
you
at
get home.
Adam Levine, Purple Rain, when he did
Okay.
the cover. It is off the chain.
I'm
Dobie.
telling you.
We're out here in
So
a cotton field in
you're talking about
Northwest
Dave
Texas.
Matthews to us, dude.
Yeah,
You're
well,
talking about
but you talking about Purple Rain, then you haven't lived till you listen to Dwight Yoakam do Purple
Oh,
Rain.
really?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll
What?
check that. I'll check
Really?
that out if you
I've
check.
never heard it. I didn't even know he did
Dwight
it.
Yoakam did Purple Rain.
A
Really?
bluegrass version of Purple Rain.
Really?
Wow,
That
I've
was-
never fucking heard that, man.
I'll check it out. You check out Adam Levine's Purple Rain, and we'll know.
But
something together.
Eddie Van Halen, when he come out, when Michael Jackson was on tour and he did the opening for, I think it was Beat It or Billie Jean or whatever it was, and he plays that guitar. The guy is the greatest guitar player, and that was the biggest fuck up of his career because he did not take any music rights with that. He told Michael Jackson he wasn't worried about it, and he wrote that. Could you imagine the percentage of everything from that Thriller album, how much money he would have got?
Golly.
If he'd have just got 50 cents for every album.
Multi-millions.
Yeah. Just nuts.
Well, since I drove up your driveway to this compound, and I'm looking around, I think y'all probably have a fairly good idea of how to make money. So all this stuff, this is impressive. It never would have occurred to me that somebody should have tapped in. I've been more on the artist side. I was just out there making noise and enjoying it instead of worrying about the business end of it.
That's what you would have done?
That's what I
So
would
you'd
have
have done like deal. Well, don't let this place fool you, you know. The bank owned this for years. We finally got it paid off. But we have no money.
there is no money in
Yeah.
this.
Well,
a feudal
I can
enterprise.
relate to that 100%.
Yeah.
promise
There's
you.
4 people or 5 people sitting in this room. Who lives in the country club here?
It ain't me.
Yeah. So you're doing the right thing. I should have went to law school.
He married good.
But did you marry good?
Yeah, you know it.
Money wise, did you marry good?
At the time, no, not
Getting
really.
there.
Does your wife family have a lot of money? See, because me and my wife
Let me
were
tell you
on a
something.
different
That's a
trip.
yeah. That's a yes.
Let me
Yes.
tell you something
'Cause
about
for
that.
me, it's a hard no.
Wally's a hard person to read. You know, the thing about Wally is if he's got $5 million in the bank or $5 in the bank, he's going to act the same way. He's going to be the same Wally. You're not ever going to know or tell. He would.
So did he marry well?
He married well.
Okay, there you go. Look, you're a smart man. See, I didn't do that.
They're
Me and my
very-
wife both
they
married
are
poor.
one of my favorite families I've ever met. Santianos are.
Yeah. I drove by that house when we did the carriage ride every Christmas and drive by there. One of my friends, they live in the same neighborhood as you do. Actually, I got a couple of friends down there, and one of them told me, and I never thought of it this way, they get mad at the carriage deals because they said them people don't give any money to charity, and they make a living off of all of us that decorate and spend a lot of money on our homes to make it pretty. She goes, I don't understand why we don't make them give us a percentage of that to a kid's charity. And I never thought about that, and it made sense to me.
Right.
Because y'all spend a pretty penny to compete with your neighbors on best decorations.
Yeah, I know what that guy makes on that too. I know
The decorating guy?
Those cap arts. Yeah,
Yeah, them suckers are making some jack.
He's making 6 figures a year on it.
Yeah.
But he goes all over the country though too, and pulls that train to different places, different fairs.
No, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about, well, that guy makes money too,
Talking
but
about
the
the guy
guys,
that does the-
but the
the
light
carriage
guys
ride.
are making a shitload of money
carries.
too.
Oh yeah, the light guys. Yeah, putting the lights up and stuff.
This fat fucker here in Knox City, I don't put my Christmas lights on. I pay somebody to do mine too. But I ain't spending near the money people in Wichita Falls.
No,
do
they
to
spend
do
big
that.
money doing
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Do you put your own lights on your house?
Until I got up on the roof about 3 years ago. Nope, I'm not doing that no more.
Do you like Christmas lights? Because I absolutely hate them. The older I get, they are a pain in the ass.
I like them now because you can buy the fancy ones that put on the show.
Yeah. And they're all LED and they always work. That's the
That's
main
right.
thing right there.
That's right. I do like them. Yeah.
I hate Christmas lights. My wife
I like them. I just don't like putting them up.
We'll come home from here at night and she'll be like, "Oh, one strand's out. Just turn them off then if you ain't gonna get it fixed." Fucking sounds good to me. Turn them.
That's why I like the LEDs, man. They
get rid of
always
them.
fucking work,
I hate
man.
Christmas lights, but I do. I have a guy. I pay a kid to come put them on, and I pay a kid to come take them down. Or because if I take them down, they stay up for 3 years.
No kidding.
Because you get 3 years out of them. The first year, they're nice and beautiful. The second year, they're kind of phasey from the sand. We got so much sand out here. Third year, they're crystal clear. All the paint's blowing off of them. So I get 3 years out of them if I do them.
So let me ask you this, because we didn't bring you all the way out here to talk about Christmas lights or guitar. I want to know, how do you get ready for what you are about to see as a so you're a young prosecutor. You've seen some of the most heinous cases, and you've seen some of the worst in human behavior. Is there anything that can prepare you for that other than trial by fire?
No.
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 Just reading some, I obviously did a little bit of homework on you. You've had some pretty tough cases. And I mean, like, how do you, just reading and looking at the photographs and hearing eyewitness testimony about what had transpired between four walls, that's some of those things have to keep you up at night.
From time to time, maybe. Grand jury. Grand jury comes through every two different grand juries a year. And I always tell them when they come in, look, you're going to hear in our little old spot on the map, hanging on to the bottom side of Oklahoma, we got just as bad of people, we got just as much evil in our county as they do in Dallas and Houston and Austin, any place in the world.
Right.
And they don't believe me. At the end of their 6 months service, they said, you were absolutely right when he told us that. That's true. Do I read about? I don't. Thankfully, guys like Sergeant Sheehan, major crimes, we're actually out there just after the fact. We actually see it when it's still, the blood's still fresh on the ground.
Right.
So it's not just reading about it. We actually smell it,
Yeah.
walk through it.
Yeah.
I don't know. Your ability to compartmentalize that is
Yeah. 'Cause
admirable for sure. I don't know how. Me and my wife talked about that same thing the other night when we was talking about this show. It was I don't know, because just thinking about some of the stories that we talked about has been bothering me, right? Since then, I mean, I just couldn't get it out of my mind, right?
Yeah.
And I told my wife, I was like, I don't know how he does that every day, man.
Right.
Every day, go see the worst, the absolute worst,
in humanity.
and then go home to such a wonderful wife, you know what I mean, and be able to leave that. I got guys that work for me that can't leave their fucking birthday at the door, right? You know, he leaves that at the door so he can be with his wife and family, right? You know, that's.
Do you have an agreement with your wife? Like, I'm not going to talk. You don't want to know anything about my day?
Not at all.
No, you talk.
She knows everything.
Well, I don't know that she knows
She's
everything.
a lawyer too. Though.
She's a lawyer.
She's a lawyer also.
Okay.
We met at Tech.
Boy, you done a damn good job. High five
criminal
to you right
defense-
there.
Criminal defense lawyer.
Oh, she is. Have
A
you ever
little
had? Have you ever had?
Can't.
They
You can't legally.
No. So let me ask you this.
Throw the case.
She would win.
She would win. She'd win before we ever walked into the courtroom.
I don't want to ask you about any cases because I know you can't discuss anything. I want to ask you about the fentanyl stuff, though.
Yes, sir.
Because that is the thing driving force. I saw a ad in New York City in Harlem, I believe, Sunday or Monday, and it showed a pin drop, and it said this much fentanyl can kill 100 people or something, or whatever it was.
Like on the tip of a big pin.
Or whatever it was, which the ad was misleading because they use fentanyl in surgery some, correct?
Yes.
Blake
But-
had fentanyl when he burned his hand real bad on his hot rod. They gave him fentanyl.
Well, they give cancer patients fentanyl patches.
Yes.
They wear patches and stuff on them. It's been around for a minute, right?
Right.
For a long time.
It's just now, they're just now figuring out how to turn it into a powder form, right?
And so-
to use it for cut.
That's my question. So the law is real vague on a lot of things. Everything's black.
He's gonna say
everything's
no,
black
it's
and
fine.
white, but life's gray. As an attorney, they took that ability out of you when you went to law school because I've
He's
noticed that with
confused.
lawyers all the time. Am I right, Officer Sheehan?
There's some gray area.
There's a gray
Right.
area in life.
Open to interpretation.
Life is not black and white, but attorneys they plug that out of you. And I don't know how they do it, but they do that. When Chuck went to law school, he was completely different when he come back because he lost all his gray area. Everything was black and white then. If you sell someone some pills with fentanyl in it and they die, is that capital murder?
Depends.
But listen,
Okay, I'm ready for this.
Here's the gray.
let me add this to that before he says anything. You're going to have a hard time convincing me that guy, okay, you got a different, think about it from this perspective, okay? That dealer, that's his job, right? So why would he want to buy something to cut his dope with that's going to kill his customers?
Right.
That's a good point.
You're just gonna have a hard time convincing me that he knew that he was doing that.
Right.
He's not wanting to kill his base. So he
Right.
makes his
There's no
money.
way he's gonna want to kill his customers. He can't. He's gonna go out of business.
Be like somebody
It's a
hunting out
short-term-
here and
short-term
everybody
goal right there,
getting
right? You know?
shot on the hunt.
So is it a byproduct of just something stupid like a car accident and a drunk driver?
No.
It's pure capital murder to you.
Well, first off, let's make sure we understand what capital murder
Okay,
is.
not capital. Let's just go with the murder one
Okay.
or whatever you call it.
And I don't want to bore your listeners and talk dry legal stuff and chop up.
Just cut it.
But just talk about murder and what we're doing in Wichita County. We recognize fentanyl is a massive problem.
Yes.
I'm not trying to be silly. It's
It's
huge.
massive.
Huge.
The other part of it is that it's here. It's already here.
It's everywhere.
The wave has crashed over the breakers, and we're all getting wet. That makes sense. I mean,
Yes.
it's-
Sure.
it is surrounding us. What we're doing in Wichita, I promise to answer your question. If that drug dealer is selling what he calls Percocet, Perks, M30s, but he knows that those pills have fentanyl, he's not really selling Percocet.
No, he's
Selling
selling
No,
fentanyl.
he's selling
He's
fentanyl.
selling, no matter what he calls it, he's selling fentanyl.
Yeah, he knows what he's selling.
Yes. So he knows.
My deal is though, Dobie, Percocets don't come with fentanyl in them.
That's right.
M30s don't come with fentanyl in them. So somebody somewhere has taken perks that are real perks, real M30s, and broke them down, cut them with fentanyl, and put them back in. They have a pill popper or a pill popper machine.
I'll address that too. Okay. So that now you've got to get south of the border. And actually, you got to get across the water to India and China.
That's where it's coming from.
That's where it's coming
yes.
from. That's where these pharmaceutical plants, I mean, manufacturing plants, are kicking out the powder that's getting sent over through South America to the cartels. And they're getting their pill presses that look like M30s. And they're shooting out these little pills. I don't know why they all say M30 on them. I mean, it's the damnedest thing. But they're all the same. They're all the same. Got the same stamp on them. I don't know why they don't just mix them all up. But they're not. It's not at
Their
all.
way of identifying them.
Well, they're not hydrocodone, which is one Percocet. It's fentanyl.
M30 is Percocet. Is that just
It's just a pill type. You know what I mean?
That's the imprint.
Yeah, on the pill.
on the
Perk-
Percocet pill?
right,
It's M30.
right.
It says M30.
Yes.
It's got an M on one side and a 30 on the other side.
And true perk will actually say perk on it. A true Percocet, or it'll have a P on it. There's a couple ways of telling. Percocets are actually coded too, coded pill. The ones that they're putting out aren't coded. That's one way you can tell which ones are fake and which ones
But
ain't.
these people that are buying these pills, when somebody goes to buy drugs, I've never bought drugs, so I'm asking you this, James.
Okay.
Well, you sold drugs. I don't know if you bought some, but you've sold some.
Plenty.
Yeah. But when you go to a place to buy drugs, you're expecting to buy Percocet. You're not asking to buy fentanyl, are you?
Well, it just depends. It
Okay,
just
so
depends.
now this is the question
that's
for
where
the
problem comes in.
prosecutor now. So if I go to a house and I say, hey, I want to buy some fentanyl, and they give me one of these pills, and I take it and I die, that's as much on me as it is that guy to give it to me, isn't it? Because if I bought cocaine from him and I die of a coke overdose, that's on me, not him.
I don't have the experience yet of having a victim or a user out in the market looking to buy fentanyl.
Well,
It was always I
And-
wanted to buy something else.
Well, they're going to talk about it in terms of Percocet.
and also this doing what we're doing right here, it goes a long ways to helping his situation, right? Because they can't hide behind ignorance, right? The more that we can put it out there, the more that we can tell the parents, the people know, and we can get the message out about what's going on and how this is working, then the more you're going to remove the ignorance for those guys. So they're not going to be able to go to court and say, well, I didn't know that was going on, right? Or I didn't know they were.
Yeah, but the victim, though, they know they're getting fentanyl, or they think they're
No,
just
they
buying
think they're getting
Percocet.
Percocet.
But you haven't had anybody go on the streets yet undercover to buy just fentanyl. Is that right, officer? So no one's going undercover and saying, I want to buy some fentanyl from you.
No, these people that are buying this, they're seeking out fentanyl. That's what they're after.
Yeah.
Perk is just like marijuana's weed. Fentanyl
So the
is
customers
perk.
are actually know what they're buying. They're
Yes.
trying to buy fentanyl. And
They
they're
are
stupid
actually
asses.
thinking-
Listen,
like
they
you
just
said
picked
earlier-
They just picked Percocets to do that. They could have picked Vicodin, fucking any pill they wanted to. It just so happens that Percocet has been what they have chose, and so that's what's carried over. So that's how they.
And don't get hung up in this fentanyl's getting delivered in just a perk. It comes in Xanax bars.
Right.
It comes in Adderall tablets. The reason they're using that is the perk stamp, the dye that they use in a pill press is cheaper than buying a big. You have to limit your amount of fentanyl because a big pill of fentanyl is nobody can take that.
Right. Yeah, you're out there.
So they're seeking out the perk just because of the size of the pill.
I guess I don't even know how small a perk is, so I don't have a clue. I'm assuming like an aspirin.
Tylenol,
Like
yeah.
second
Tylenol
tablet.
size or something. Advil, yeah.
So so as a grandparent of grandkids, I worry about my grandkids getting these pills that someone's going to play. Oh, it's candy. It's like a piece of
Smartie.
a Smartie or something. So these people aren't pressing it and making it look like candy. Then they're not trying to get kids hooked on this shit. They're just trying to sell it, and it's killing people, and people are taking it by accident. Or do you think there's some actual users out there that are trying to get kids hooked on this shit?
I think every drug dealer
Is
in
trying
the
to,
world is trying to get everybody hooked on
I
it.
think he's looking to build his audience, but that goes with what I was saying earlier. They're not intentionally,
Wanting to
trying
kill
to kill
people.
their audience, right?
And that's-
they are trying to get their audience, but they're not trying to kill them. So you need to look at where that's coming from, that percentage, because that's where you're gonna find you.
Except that they know, the dealers know that that fentanyl is in fact fatal.
Right, and they know it's killing people.
They
now,
know it's
and
killing people. They know it's
kids, and,
dangerous. So there is a
Listen, man, they should be running from that shit. They should
Yeah.
be nowhere around fucking with any of that shit. I can imagine a dealer right now fucking with that and thinking that that's a good thing.
So is this what it looks like right here? Is that an accurate representation? These blue.
That looks like very Xanax like. That looks like an M30 in a way, don't it?
That's an M30 perk, correct?
Yeah.
That's an M30 perk. That is fentanyl,
Yes.
and it's in a Skittles package. Now, were they just trying to get this across the border, or were they
that's
gonna?
what I would guess.
Oh,
So,
sure.
they're not trying to get.
That's how they're smuggling it.
They're not trying to get a kid to buy a package of Skittles at the Allsups.
They don't care. I wouldn't say that that's their target audience, but I'll
Right.
say that they don't give a shit.
because
They don't care if it gets your kids.
But that's the way to smuggle them in. Even a guy that's selling them out of his car could have a bag of Skittles there, and says, and maybe an officer will
right.
think, he's just got. It's not.
Right.
He's not selling dope. So
Right.
that's that. I could see where they're camouflaging it that way. Wichita County y'all have arrested some people for murder.
yes, sir.
For this selling fentanyl. I haven't seen it anywhere else. I've watched the Abilene news, and I haven't seen Abilene. Have you, Andy?
I haven't been watching.
I see it on social media, but Wichita County is the only one. What kind of charges if you sell something and someone dies from overdose? What are we looking at? 50 years in prison, 20 years in prison, 100 years life? What's going on?
5 to 99 or life.
5 to 9. That's a very broad scope.
Well, you got to figure out what you can get them charged with.
But that's for murder, and that's based on a theory of what we call felony murder. It's a felony level offense to deliver penalty group 1 drugs or penalty group 2 to a person. I'm not trying to be boring. Fentanyl is a penalty group 1 drug. If I give you a pill, even if you don't pay me for it, if I just hand it to you, and I know it's fentanyl, and I know that fentanyl is dangerous, and you take it and die, I have now caused you to do an act. I've done an act clearly dangerous to human life in giving you that pill that you have taken voluntarily, but I knew what was in it. Therefore, it's our position that I have now murdered you.
How do you-
Is that something causation or something? What is that called?
causation. How do you prove that they knew what it was? Is that where a good job comes in on your part? Like how do you
it's a good job on their part.
on their part?
Let's get him, James. Switch with him.
And also on our part, because removing the ignorance about it goes a long ways. Because you can argue that they, if the more we do this, the more it's in their face, the more it's around. There's no way they can say they didn't know about it.
That's pro true. Switch with Brian real quick. I'm gonna get you on right here because this is gonna be some cop questions.
And then we'll get the criminal. We'll get the
The expert.
the actual expert in it. Watch those cameras right there. Is the only thing. Dobie, you
Look
might.
at that fat boy.
There you go.
Spill coffee.
It's a little.
Dobie's like me. Dobie likes biscuits.
That boy's trying
Yeah,
to
I know she
squeeze
didn't get
around
through
here.
there.
Yeah, just squeeze.
There you
it.
go.
You're good. You're good. Okay. All right. You are the first person that sat here that had that I know about that had a pistol on their hip. So
Now, I bet there's been somebody else, but you're the first person that sit here with a badge because
Yes.
everybody else that's got a badge
Yes.
is scared to be on here. So,
I set you up.
in Wichita County, you go. you probably don't do undercover buys. You've got guys that do that, or y'all got different deals. But you're the one that goes and investigates.
Yes, sir. We work the death investigation.
So recently, y'all just had a weekend where y'all had 3 or 4 people die from fentanyl. Am I right, or was it 2?
It was 3.
It was 3 that died of fentanyl, and they all come from the same situation, right?
Yes,
the same batch. And you hear about that in towns, and you hear about towns, the big cities, where there's 10 or 15 people die. And so, if you get that case, is that dealer, does he know that he's in trouble as soon as that happens?
Oh, yes. Yeah, as soon as we'll go to the hospital and we'll have a series of overdoses or whatever. By the time we can get from the hospital back to the dealer, they've already taken their dope. They've moved it around and things like that. The word gets out to them faster than the word can be passed around by us.
And how long have you been doing what you do?
28 years.
28 years. Have you ever had to do a case for a death from cocaine?
Yes.
You have? Did
Yes.
y'all do the same kind of prosecution on someone there, or is it just because they took too much of it?
I'm not saying it's a penalty group 1 drug, so we would do the same thing. The investigation part of it might be a little bit more complex because fentanyl kills you so fast.
Right.
How
So-
fast are we talking from
2 to
ingesting
6
it?
minutes.
No shit. Oh wow.
Does Narcan even help on it?
Yeah,
You can't-
Narcan will. And matter of fact, one of our officers just recently got out to an overdose where a guy was probably in minute number 5 of 6 and popped him with the Narcan and woke him back up. So it happens, but you've got to get there pretty quick. Usually these dopers, they don't really care about anybody other than themselves. So if they've got a partner that he's overdosing there, they're more worried about having to deal with us
Right.
because he's sick. So they'll just dump him out on the side of the road. They'll leave him in a car for 6 hours and then come back and,
Drag this just a little bit closer to you. Just pull it right on up. There you go.
The kid that drove around with the dead kid in the car,
Can you talk about that?
Is that
That's probably not something you can talk about.
What
That's
ab-
street knowledge, though.
What about
That's known on the street.
here's
it's known to-
what about the kid, the 14-year-old kid? It was he was from Albany, right? And then
They probably can't talk about this either, can you?
no, that's an ongoing
Yeah,
investigation.
they can't talk about that.
I can't tell you one thing since you brought up this. That is one of the biggest problems with this fentanyl is that it is attractive to kids that are 13, 14, and 15 years old.
Why is that?
It's because of the high you get from it. 28 years I've been in law enforcement in Wichita Falls. And when I started out in the late 80s, the 90s, and stuff like that, crack was the drug of choice. Everybody wanted to smoke crack cocaine. Then early 2000s, it moves away from that, and it goes into methamphetamine. And Nazi methamphetamine, that's all anybody wants. Let me see how much pseudoephedrine I can buy so I can squirt some anhydrous on it and make me some methamphetamine. And now, with the legalization of marijuana, and it being so readily available,
it's not good enough.
they like this I don't give a crap feeling. And that is what this drug provides.
Remember when we was in high school, man, and you had the group of us kids, whatever, that was the stoners, and there was those group that did mushrooms and that group that did acid stuff. That's the way this is, and it's that group of young kids that's attracted to the fentanyl. It's a very bad deal, man.
Have you ever dealt? I am the most undrugged person in the world. I've never smoked marijuana in my life. Never in my life. I ain't been drunk 20 times in my life because I know when I'm about to get drunk, I do not like to feel like shit, so I quit drinking. Now I drink, but I'm not. But I've never done any type of illegal drug in my lifetime. I could have been a druggie because a hydrocodone is the greatest feeling in the world whenever I have to take one of them some bitches.
I don't like hydrocodone.
Oh man, I'm telling you, I had my tonsils out. It was the greatest liquid. Woof, that shit was good. I could understand how people get on drugs. I do, but I've never smoked pot or nothing in my life. I used to be anti-marijuana. Now I'm pro-marijuana. They need to make it medicine for people. It does a lot of good in the world. As a police officer, you probably completely disagree with me. But have you ever seen anybody that was just high
On marijuana
that caused a problem or died from it?
Well, that's a problem with the legalization of marijuana. Used to, in the late 80s, when you got marijuana and it was either locally grown out here on the Brazos River, or it come from Mexico or something. The THC quantity is so low
Right.
that it gives you that, hey,
Yeah.
kind of
Right.
feeling. But now, because they synthetically make this stuff and they're boosting the THC content so much that, yeah, it's a completely different.
But are they violent or are they just fucking
Yes.
stoned out of their mind?
Yes, they're
So you are
violent.
dealing with some violent stuff on
Yes.
marijuana now?
But
Yes.
it's when it's synthetic. Is that, or is it just any marijuana?
You
Just-
talking
high-
about like the K2 or are you talking about just
I think they're probably mixing it with other things.
okay?
Right. There's
Whatever's
the
violent.
super high levels of THC.
The reason that I would be pro legalization of marijuana is I am afraid of, with all the other stuff that's out there, with it getting cut with something else, something that will, like fentanyl, that will kill you, and then you're in trouble. If you just got marijuana, that's straight marijuana, or the old shit from the 80s that you just kind of got that feeling. My thinking is if we legalized it, it would be regulated, and you would know exactly what you're purchasing. You're not getting it from a back alley drug dealer that may or may not have knowingly mixed it with something else.
Don't you think there's always going to be a black market?
There's
Yes.
always-
For marijuana,
black
I mean,
market.
we haven't there's not for alcohol anymore, is there?
That's because you got those politicians.
Look at the state of Colorado where marijuana is legal. As a matter of fact, you can smoke marijuana in public.
Right.
It's about the most liberal state there is with marijuana. Their law enforcement up there does more state enforcement to control black market marijuana than
Why?
they do anything else because the government's not getting the tax dollars from it.
But that's it right there. If the federal
It's
government
still
would
illegal
regulate
after
it, we could get rid of the black market by it being
You
legal.
won't ever get rid of it because you're with regulated marijuana. You've got taxes you've got to pay. You've got the overhead costs that's associated. Somebody to make $1 is always going to come in and undercut that.
But we don't hear about-
Still buy tax-free cigarettes. You know what I mean?
But we don't hear about bathtub gin or anything anymore because alcohol is legal.
There's still a lot of moonshining going on.
Still some moonshine going on.
Yeah, there's still
It's
going
right
on.
now.
It's just not big deals of it.
Right.
But it is.
But that would be why I would want to see it legalized, is because
And there's not a lot of money in alcohol. There's a lot of
Really?
money in dope.
really
Yes.
more so than alcohol.
okay, back to you. Wally, is that your name now? Are you Wally? Did you call him Wally a minute ago?
That's my father-in-law.
Father-in-law.
Okay, I got confused by that.
Oh, it's a compliment. Okay. But
That's like calling somebody from Louisiana Kunas. They love that. Okay, when you go in these cases with this fentanyl stuff, first of all, I can't imagine dealing with the parents you have to deal with on a situation like this because some of them are completely never had any idea their kids were involved in this shit. How long until someone dies from fentanyl do you know it's a fentanyl case? Do you know immediately, or does it take after you get a toxicology report?
always going to have to wait till the toxicology report. So they will know. I say they. I'm motioning to Sergeant Sheehan. They're going to know really quick that they suspect.
What they suspect.
Right.
Right.
And now it's reasonable to believe that there's fentanyl associated, certainly with the manner of the
As
death.
dangerous it is, you want to automatically suspect that now, right?
Right.
Like you want to automatically be on the watch for that, but
Right.
you don't want to get caught touching something or something.
It'll take about 2 to 6 weeks to get a
That long?
toxicology.
So it's not like CSI where
Well, yeah.
you walk downstairs and you got a toxicology report.
I tell the jury that every single time. You have neon lights here in this room, but
Yes.
police department does not have a fancy lab with neon lights and stainless steel and runway models as actresses.
I never understood. It was always dark in the lab. Like, aren't these places like well lit? Like we're in CSI Las Vegas, and it's always dark in the place. Like, I'm sure they have to see something.
DNA.
Yeah.
DNA. You're talking about an 8 to 12 month turnaround on a DNA case when somebody's
cow.
when somebody's sexually assaulted or killed.
8 months.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not like Horatio.
If you're lucky.
If you're lucky. Now, so how do you? Let's go to DNA real quick. And
I didn't mean to throw you off. That was just an example.
No. But I want to know. Like, my DNA is not anywhere.
You sure?
It's not been taken.
You don't think?
Yeah, it is.
Where?
You've had surgery?
They keep my
No.
blood type.
No,
I mean,
just
You're not.
but I
in
mean,
that.
how
you're
are
probably
they gonna?
not in the DNA database.
That's what I'm saying.
Does everybody goes to prison? Do they get onto the DNA? Do they
Yes.
swab them?
Yes.
That's why they want you to drink. That's why they want to give you coffee whenever you go in the interrogation room. I know your secrets. Listen, have a cup of coffee, and then I got your DNA when you throw it away. I know all the secrets, Jeff.
We watch 48 Hours.
Yeah. I've seen a Netflix
That makes
documentary.
back to the fentanyl though. So when, as soon as you think it's a fentanyl deal, or any drug overdose, you automatically are starting an investigation, right? Let's say Johnny takes too many pills and dies by accident, because there's accidental overdoses. What do you mean?
One pill.
One pill.
But there's accidental overdoses. Guys die all the time. I think a football player's brother died of an accidental overdose the other day. But it happens.
Yes.
So when you find out it's an accidental overdose, are you still going after the dealer? That's what my question was about the cocaine earlier. If someone snorts coke and they die of a heart attack, are you after that guy the same as you are the fentanyl? Because they're still selling a product that killed him, but the guy taking the cocaine had no plans of dying. He thought he was just going to get high. The guy taking the fentanyl knows that his life's in jeopardy, I think. I really do. I think if you take fentanyl, you're willing, it's so good, you're willing to risk that.
Oh, yeah, they go out of their way to, as a matter of fact, they seek out the higher quality of the dope. People seek out a dealer that they know has dealt that has overdosed people because he's getting better dope.
Boy, people are fucked up. But on a cocaine deal, but on a coke deal, are you going to prosecute the same on a guy dealing coke, knowing that the only way you're going to die from taking cocaine, unless you have an allergic reaction or heart attack, is going to be by taking too much? I mean, I know it's splitting hairs here.
It's the same penalty group, so yes, it's the same elements of the charge.
Have y'all ever filed charges on a coke dealer for murder?
No, but that would be hard to prove. It would
That's
be
what I'm
a
getting at.
more difficult case for us to prove. Even these fentanyl cases that we're charging murder, they're very difficult cases. I mean, the evidence we have to have is I have to prove that
he knew.
And Dobie can jump in if I'm wrong, but what we're looking at our standard is I have to be able to prove that the pill you give me was the pill that I took, which is the pill that killed me. You see all the links in the chain that have to go together? It can't be you sold me a pill and I took it, and then I went to him and bought a pill and I took it, because then we got too many links. The link in the chain's been broke. So
it's hard to prove that person intentionally killed that person, because we're back to that one thing. It's self-responsibility. Nobody wants to be responsible for themselves. Now, if you sell someone something that's tainted, meth, for example, don't know shit about meth, but I'm assuming you can make meth with some stuff that could kill people pretty damn easy. You don't think so?
I know that resident expert in the room will probably tell me I'm crazy, but I was prosecuting a whole lot of meth cooks, dealers, users.
For murder?
Never.
That's what I'm
because people died from methamphetamine overdoses. That did happen, but it wasn't like this.
But there wasn't an ill intent.
Not typically, it's very hard to. But your body doesn't have the same physiological addiction that it does to opiate to an amphetamine.
Yeah,
you can metabolize amphetamine.
What he's saying about the addiction is the best way it was explained to us is methamphetamine is going to be 90% mental on the addiction, 10% physical. With this fentanyl, heroin, it is 90% physical, 10% mental. Once you get addicted to this, your body has to have it, and you will do whatever it takes to get it.
Opiates replace your body's ability to make dopamine and adrenaline, right? So
Spot on.
You're replacing it with pharmaceuticals to give you that same ability to make it through the fucking day, just to get up.
Right.
Well, meth is some serious shit, because it's taken a lot of fucking guys I know that turned them into Huffy riders, and they ride bikes all over fucking every small town in America. That's bad. You give up your license to ride a bike. That's some heavy shit. But I don't know anybody that's addicted to fentanyl that I know of.
Are they just not living long enough? Is that what it is?
It's much more physiological addiction. There's a physical addiction to fentanyl. Because
and fentanyl is extremely potent, but it's still an opiate. So it's no different than somebody that seeks out hydrocodone cough syrup. It's no different than somebody that, my back hurts, I got to go see my 12th doctor of the month, and I need some legitimate Percocet. It's an opiate. It's just a bigger blast of opiate.
Opiates are physically addicted to your body, right? Like your body physically has to have them, and methamphetamine it don't.
Okay.
It's all about in your head.
So, Dobie.
Yes, sir.
What do you think on these cases? What do you think long term? This is we're nationwide. We're going to start locking up fentanyl dealers like in a massive way.
Well, I hope so.
Well, I do too. But I'm just saying, or is this going to be the things that the courts are just going to kick back all the damn time?
No, I think once you can once a prosecutor is bold enough to take that step and deal with all the issues that you've rightly brought up, and you can show that it can be done, then I think there's going to be a cry from the public to deal with this. There has to be.
I can't imagine right now still there ain't people like the person who sold all this fentanyl to these people in Wichita Falls. I can't believe are they out on bail?
Not
because y'all put $1 million bond on them, didn't you?
Well,
No, they're not.
Somebody else is filling
The
his
two-
position like right now. There's already somebody filling his position.
Well, I wanted to get back to that picture, but the two folks that are in jail right now on the fentanyl-related murders, they're still in jail. One of the guy that was arrested first, he had previously been arrested for selling. He had been caught with fentanyl in his possession, and he had bonded out immediately. But now that he's in, he has not bonded out again. What's important, I think, it fits into the mishmash of all this. All those pills up there, each one of those pills is getting sold for $20 a shot.
There's 12,000 pills at LA International. That's what it says there. So $20 at 12,000. That's
2.4 million.
yeah, that's a lot of change.
Yeah, and that's one reason that it is. That's the problem because it's cheap to make.
What's that pill cost? $20. James, I'm going to ask you because you're going to know probably more than
$4 to make.
$4 to make.
To make
$4 to
$4.
buy it in bulk. If I go and buy 1,000 fentanyl pills in Dallas, I'm paying $4 a pill. I'm coming back to Wichita Falls and I'm selling it
if you buy
from
powder,
$20 to
if you-
$35 a
you can get
pill.
it cheaper. If you had your own pill press, and you could get a connection with a cartel or whatever, you can get the powder form. You can make your own.
Well, I'm at the easy $4 deal here. I'm thinking, some bitch, I'm in the wrong business.
No, I'm
let me
saying,
let me ask you this real quick. One of those pills right there, if I were to take it, I weigh 180 pounds. Is that going to kill me?
Don't know
It
because
just
you don't
everybody's different.
know because every pill is different.
I see.
Because they take the powder,
Right.
they throw it into
That's
a bucket.
But you answered the $1 million question that everybody's asking right now. Go ahead. I'm sorry. This is the question.
They throw the cartel. I'm blaming the cartels, but
No.
whoever's pressing the pills, they take the fentanyl, the dope, the chemical, throw it in the bucket. They throw it in their pill machine, and they just make pills. Whereas if you had a pharmaceutical grade
Fentanyl pill.
manufactured here in the United States that the FDA had control over, they would know precisely how much fentanyl is in a pill.
You answered what everybody
Exactly
wants
what
to
he was
know.
talking about earlier.
Because I did not understand that. I couldn't understand why one thing kills you and you're not. That pill there may have 10% fentanyl on it, and the next pill may have 38%.
That's absolutely right.
And also, it does matter. Your body does matter because how your body's going to react to it, you don't even know until you first take it.
Till you start.
And the only gripe I have with that statement, he's right, but it takes such a minute amount of fentanyl anyway to be lethal. It only takes 3 grains of sand worth to kill
Now,
a
fentanyl
person.
catches up.
You got to understand the opiate addiction process too. Is and we've seen this. We've went back and improved it up in investigations. But your body with opiates builds up an addiction. So today I may take 1 pill, and if I keep using it, tomorrow I take 1 pill. Then the next day, that 1 pill a day is not getting me quite as high, so I move to 2
Builds up a
pills a day.
tolerance.
You build up a tolerance to it.
Right.
Well, then, despite what anybody might say, if you stop taking fentanyl, you get off of it, you go through the withdrawals, you're going to get sick. You get really
die.
sick. Yes.
You can die.
But then you get over your withdrawals. It doesn't really have a whole lot of side effects on your body. But then
Once you're through the withdrawals.
you're still struggling with your addiction, and you go on rocking and rolling for about 3 weeks, and then you decide,
one more.
I want to hit it again. So you go back out, and they'll try to use the same amount that they were using before then, and their body can't handle it, and they're dead right where they.
Oh.
The thing, though,
You have to build the tolerance up if you're going to be doing that kind of shit.
I did not understand, and I'm sure 90% of people listening to this, the way you explained it made sense, because I kept thinking, well, fuck, they give it to you at a hospital. Why aren't people just dropping dead from the pills there? Because they know
controlled
it's
amount.
a controlled amount. Because you're getting fentanyl when you have surgery and stuff. It's a controlled amount. And there's not a danger no more than taking a hydrocodone. You may have allergic reaction and die from it, but you're not going to die
Well, they're
from it.
also in an environment where they can reverse the effects of it, like right now.
Right. But I see these videos of these police officers open up a pouch with fentanyl and they crash all of a sudden, and they got to give Narcan to a police deal. Y'all have to use gloves and everything with this fentanyl, don't you?
Oh yeah.
It goes through. It can be absorbed through the skin.
Yeah, it can be. It's more dangerous. They say, like, we haven't seen any of the powdered fentanyl where they're actually pressing it out. Now, the reason we don't see powdered fentanyl where they're pressing it out in Wichita Falls is because it's too easy to go down to Fort Worth and buy it.
Yes.
You don't have to deal with all that. So that's where it's real light, stays in the air. You're ingesting it.
Right.
It's odorless, tasteless. You don't know you're getting it into it till you got too much, and then it's too late. So we deal with the pills, but like those fentanyl pills, I can pick them up barehanded, and they're probably not. Now I probably don't need to be putting my fingers in my mouth after I've done it and stuff like that.
There's also the difference between the real ones and the ones that are fake, because the real ones are coated and they won't absorb through your skin when you're handling them. But the fake ones, a lot of them that are pressed don't have that coating on.
So if
them.
you go and
They
you're
will
going to buy
actually
fentanyl and it's
dissolve
not
in your
coated,
hand.
you're taking your life in your own hands. The coated ones are the real fentanyl.
Well, like Percocets, they're coated and stuff. That's
Okay,
how
it's
they
not the
time
fentanyl, it's
release and
real
break down in your
Percocets.
body.
Okay, so this is going to be a dumb question. When you watch the old cop shows, they cut open a bag of cocaine and the cop puts his knife in it and he puts it on his tongue and says, that's just cocaine. You're not testing shit that way, are you?
No, that's kind of like getting DNA back.
That's right.
24 hours.
I saw there's a funny video. It's got Robert De Niro and Eddie Murphy, and Eddie Murphy's a TV cop. And anyway, he does the whole thing and he licks it, and Robert De Niro's a real cop, and he's like, "What if that was cyanide?" He's like, "Oh yeah, cocaine." He's like, what if that had been cyanide? You'd have just dropped dead. But yeah, it's scary. So, are you guys doing the school presentations? Because our little community, I don't know where they were brought in. It might have been Wichita Falls.
Yeah.
They did a whole county-wide schools, like, listen, this is what you need to be aware of. Are you guys doing that also in Wichita Falls?
Yeah, that's what my wife does. She's an officer at the Wichita Falls Police Department. They've got the Safe School program through Crime Stoppers, and they came out to, I believe it was last week, to Knox City, and they've been going to. They've been to Olney. I know some of the other schools, Iowa Park.
What's kids are stupid. And
Exactly.
kids are very naive. And I think one of the problems is people, especially like you're going to have a hard time convincing a 13-year-old kid that something is this lethal. Like, I could take one pill and I'm not breathing in 5 minutes. So have you seen any of that when you're doing these seminars? Like, some of the kids kind of brush it off, or are most of them pretty receptive to the material that's being presented?
It kind of just depends on the kid. A lot of them are surprised because the fact that, getting it through their head that this fentanyl pill and this fentanyl pill may be different. This one may kill you dead and this one may not. So just putting that information out there, putting the information out in these smaller communities too, where maybe you don't have as the bigger portion of the population that knows what this is, and so they bring it. And hey, take this pill. You can get a pretty good buzz, while you sit in class, and nobody can tell that you're on it or whatever like that. So it's just getting it out there. This is what this is. This is what it can do to you. They're still gonna make up their own mind, but
again, that's what this situation right here is good for, because
Right.
every person in this room is going to be affected by somebody's death from fentanyl if we don't do something about this.
So
Right.
this is a 25 and under drug, isn't it?
no. Well, I've seen overdoses all the way from 50 on down. It's not really that, but it is very popular with young people.
What's scary is I'm 54 years old, and I went through the Nancy Reagan
Say no to
drugs, and this is your frying eggs. This is your, and it was marijuana and cocaine, and then it was crack, and then it was meth and ecstasy, and now but the playing field keeps getting worse all the time. What's scary is what is next after fentanyl,
It's hard to imagine what's next.
That's
after
what- that's-
fentanyl.
but-
how can they
but-
make anything more powerful than fentanyl? Man? That's crazy how powerful
But
it is.
but it just keeps getting worse and worse and worse all the time. We're the last 30 years. Crack cocaine, I know a lot of people that lost all their teeth, but I don't know anybody that died from crack. I'm sure there are some people that died of crack. I'm sure it happened lots of times. And I don't know a lot of people that died from meth, and I know there are people that have died from meth. But every one of them gets worse. And this fentanyl deal is fucking scary. I mean, it's scary that a kid and just you're taking, when you're buying dope off the street, and now you're at a chance of playing life or death. And you just buy the wrong thing, and it's, you said $35, $20 to $35 a pill. How many pills a day are these kids taking?
We've talked to people that, I start off snorting a quarter pill a day.
So they're snorting this, they're not just taking it.
Within
Crushing
60
them.
days,
Right.
they're up to snorting 9 a day.
How do they afford
It's
that shit?
Very addictive. People burn through money.
Yeah, but where do they get? I want to know where a 16-year-old kid is getting $200 a day for dope.
Steal,
Go
rob.
go to the theft division at the police department. They'll tell you.
Once they're addicted to it, they're going to do whatever it takes. That's what this is. This is so bad. Once they get addicted to it, they have to have it. It is not only going to drive your overdose numbers, your drug numbers, but everything that's related to this that we do, it's going to drive your thefts through the roof. That's how they get their money. Your burglaries, your murders.
Unfortunately, we are a little bit used to that with the meth epidemic.
Stealing.
But meth's cheap.
Meth started that kind of behavior.
But the whole culture with the meth craze, the meth lifestyle. This anecdote, I don't have it. 65-70% of all crime in Wichita Falls is related directly to methamphetamine. Because it's all, I mean, almost all of your financial crime
We do
is
the same
A
thing here
means
too.
to an end.
Sure.
It's small towns. It's everywhere. Anybody that thinks they don't have it, just because I was curious about the fentanyl, because it's just been a 6-month deal really that we've been hearing about. I know it's been longer than that,
It's going to really start blowing up.
but the last 6 months you've really heard more and more of it. And then when I was in Northeast, there was multiple places that had signs about it, and I'm thinking this shit, because it's moved from Mexico up, correct?
Correct.
Yes.
And it's getting up there real bad too. But
Well, it's coming on the coastlines too because it's coming from China.
Right. Well, the coastlines like it too, because one thing we never had around here in all my 28 years, we've never really had a whole lot of heroin problem. In the Northeast, California, they've got that heroin problem. Well, heroin is just a weaker form of fentanyl. So they're more used to, they're already seeking out that, I want that
They already have their
extra
market
octane
status.
opiate that I can get. And we've never had that problem. That's what it moving in here.
They already
That's
had their markets established in those places.
Now-
Their
Right.
heroin lines and stuff.
Was who is it just because this is so dangerous that we're seeing just kind of this all hands on deck from the prosecution side to the law enforcement side? Like this is something that because, and here's my thing, you're not going to put the genie back in the bottle. Like everybody knows that it's out there. So is the thinking, if we make the penalty stiff enough, maybe that will curtail some of the, what's the word I'm looking for? Some of the allure of this drug?
I think the penalty's always been there. The penalty's always been available. It's the ability to implement the penalty, to bring it to bear on the folks that are doing this. Because I firmly believe that if you're selling, not you, if a person is selling fentanyl,
Right.
they know what they're doing. They know the risk they're placing our community in, and they don't care. They don't care where it gets blasted. I understand James's argument that they don't want to take away customers, but they want to get this stuff out there so they can make more customers. That
if they
can
kill
get
3
more,
people out of 1,000, they don't care.
because they're going to have other people.
Right.
Nature abhors a vacuum. They're going to come back in. Somebody else is going to come back in. And at $20 to $35 a pill, they're making a
That's
ton
what
of
I'm
money.
thinking about. A kid that's
So-
taking 4 a day, that's $150 a day habit. That's $1,000 a week, and they don't have that kind of money. And then I'm thinking, some bitch that's got 12 or 15 clients a day, he's making $10,000-$15,000 a week.
Do they have? Well, I'm gonna get in trouble when I say this.
What?
Do they have sex organs?
Oh, well, I know that's
right.
what they're using it for. You can say whatever you want here. You ain't gonna get in trouble here.
Yeah.
But they're selling their bodies and everything else. That's exactly right. And it happens all the time.
right there. And to answer your question about putting a genie back in the bottle,
Right.
you're not getting a genie back in the bottle. You're just trying to make people aware.
That this will kill you.
If I arrest somebody for a state jail felony dope charge, nobody. That's 15 times a day in Wichita Falls every day for our police department. If I arrest somebody for first degree murder, people notice it, people listen, people talk about it, and the word gets out.
And that's what-
it's just
That's what we're hoping for. That's what we just need people to talk. And when I say we need people, we need parents to talk to their kids. And it sounds silly and it sounds naive.
Archaic almost. Now, because I got my degree from Texas Tech also. I could be a teacher, and I decided not to do that route. But when I student taught, I was shocked, quite frankly, at the lack of parent involvement in their kids. And this was in 2000. I graduated in 2011, so that was 10 years ago, 11 years ago. And even then, like, you would talk to some of these kids, and they're like, they had parents at home. They didn't have anything to do with them. Like, they would come home and they would not talk to their parents. They might throw some food in their face at dinner time, but there's no parent involvement. And I can't imagine what it's like 10 years removed from that with the cell phones and the iPads and everything else that we've got.
The parents got their own substance issues. Their parents are living their own life, and they're not paying attention to their children.
I don't understand people that don't raise their kids, and you see it all the time.
It's become too
it's a different
acceptable
world
in
than it is.
society.
To not be a good parent.
To not be a good parent, to be able to use drugs, kind of live your life. It's all about you being happy at the moment. Instead of you sucking it up and making some good decisions and maybe not,
Right.
Because we don't have. Well, I'm getting on the soapbox. I don't want to, but we
Get on it. It's there for you.
Yeah. Well, we come to expect everybody else to take care of our responsibilities. We want teachers at schools raising our kids. We want them to.
Right.
I
got out of it.
I'm not picking on teachers. They're in an impossible situation.
Yeah.
We want the police officers to come and discipline our kids. When our kid talks back to us, we call the police and tell them to quit doing that. Mm-hmm. We've completely become so self-absorbed and self-possessed. We want to feel good all the time. We're not paying attention to our responsibilities, and that's
why I got out of it. I caught a kid cheating. Called him in. Had parent teacher conference. I'm a student teacher, and parent called me a liar. No way, little Johnny could have done that.
Not my kid's fault.
I saw him.
Oh God,
I saw him do it. He was unprepared and he cheated, like black and white. Back to that black and white thing, and didn't get anywhere with parent. And I said right there, like, I can't do it. Yeah, and I was going to be a coach, and like, I think I came from the last line of like pretty tough coaches, and not like Joe Bob Tyler or anything like that, but you had expectations. So I went in, I'm going to have expectations for my students, and it was not reciprocated from the parents in.
The teachers today are a no-win deal, and that's the type of deal. If you go to school, even if you were a bad student, you had respect for your teachers. You didn't smart off to someone because somebody had slapped the shit out of you. Well, nowadays, they smart off. They're disrespectful. I see these videos of these kids all the time. And then what really wears me out is the parents when they get involved, and like you said, and they're like, don't touch my kid. I carried him for 9 months in my belly. That's your problem, though. You didn't have a kid to be his friend. You're supposed to be his parent.
They don't understand discipline's part of love. They don't get it. They don't understand.
No, they don't.
Part of raising your kid right is making sure he does the right shit.
My last question for you, and then we can get James back in here. Halloween is coming up. Is this something that everybody needs to be looking for, or are we good? Is this like a big wives' tale, like razor blades and the candy bar?
Big wives' tale. You're not going to have people passing out bags of Skittles full of fentanyl.
They don't want to lose the money.
Right.
Yeah, that's not going to happen.
So we're trick or treat where trick or treat from people obviously. Maybe do trunk or treat or something like that. But this is not going to be something that is passed on to your kids.
Use common sense.
The kids that are dying from overdoses of fentanyl are taking a pill that they knew they were taking a pill. They may just not have known it was fentanyl. They may have thought it was just a Percocet. But if your kid's taking drugs and there's worried about fentanyl, he's taking drugs, and you need to do some parenting with him.
You need to do some parenting no matter what kind of drug your kid's taking.
Right. Yes.
Because any other kind of drug can lead to drug-seeking behavior is drug-seeking behavior.
Well, and like you said earlier too, you don't know what the.
Here, we'll get you back in here, James. We'll switch you two, and then we'll finish with James because Jeff has to go in about 30 minutes. But yeah, that's because I've always you read the headlines like this, and you obviously, I think, and I could be totally wrong, are foreign influences trying to do something on the home front? Like, is this China's way of, hey, we can bring this shit in and maybe weaken America a little bit? Now, I don't realize that's a little bit conspiracy.
You're getting a little Q factory here.
A little bit conspiracy minded.
I work for the DAO, not the CIA.
Right.
But I don't know.
Right.
I heard of COVID.
Right.
That's about as undermining as you can do to a country and a world on purpose.
What we do know, and what I feel like I feel confident in saying, we do know it is coming from overseas.
Right.
And they know it.
Yeah.
There's
So-
no regulation and cheap labor. It's really simple to do shit.
Right.
When we went through COVID, did you see an uptick in shit like this or to less?
Drug use.
It's hard to say. We didn't really study it, but what I do know is, y'all don't want to. But government function on some level stopped. Jails couldn't take people in because
Right.
you bring COVID into the jails, and now you have a
But crime didn't stop.
crime never stopped. So yeah, there's more dope out there, and we're still trying to fight that. Don't call it a backlog, but all this stuff, all the pressure in the system built up, and there was nowhere for it to go. But did it? Yeah, people are at home going stir crazy.
Man, this COVID stuff and the way the government reacted to it allowed or it enabled crime families to set up a network, right? To set their infrastructure up for this.
He left at exactly the wrong time.
And it's coming in hard.
Would you? I lost my train of thought. Would you consider this would this be comparable to the crack epidemic that we saw in the 80s, or is this just something that's way worse?
was
Like on
too-
scale.
I was too young. I was
Right.
in high school, and
I didn't know if there was like any numbers that you had seen retrospectively, like in studying this.
I know there's except for lead poisoning. I know the stuff's more deadly. I know that.
Right.
In
I just
terms
said
of scale, crack epidemic pervaded in the northeast, and moved, and from the west and moved inward. This is hitting us at the same time. It's everywhere now.
It's a different clientele too, ain't it? Right? It's a
Because black people predominantly were the crack, which
right.
you know,
in
you
a
go
lower end,
you go
in a lower end,
conspiracy.
black people too. Not
If you want to go
knocking-
conspiracy theory,
right?
crack carries a stiffer penalty, doesn't it?
No.
No. So
No, it's the same Schedule 1. You know,
it is.
So
Because that's one of the things. You go conspiracy theory.
Well,
crack was introduced into the black community,
communities and
it's all poor people.
right.
do
It's a different culture.
cocaine is a recreational drug. There are people addicted to cocaine, but it's a recreational drug. Am I correct on
If
that?
you say so, sir. It's an illegal drug.
It's illegal, but it's recreational.
Let's ask.
though.
It's designed to be. It was.
It's
a
a party
It's
drug.
a party drug.
Right.
You can do it on
Yeah.
Friday and Saturday.
That's what it came out.
Right.
That's how it's a big seller. It's
Right.
woohoo.
Recreational drug is what I want to call it.
Right.
This shit here, fentanyl's nothing recreational about it,
Well, they think it is. That's why these kids take it.
but they're addicted to it more. I went to school with very few people that did cocaine because
And they're
nobody could
addicted
afford
to
that shit.
opiates.
But it was a rich person's drug, and then there's people I'm sure that there's probably a lot of girls sold their body to get cocaine. There's no doubt about that. But it was not like fentanyl, where these people are getting addicted to fentanyl like they did meth.
Correct.
And that's the difference between the one of them. And it's affecting the masses more. That's what crack did. Crack affected and meth did the masses because poor people could get it.
You're bringing up
Again, it's a physiological addiction. I'm sorry, no.
Go ahead.
Again, it's a physiological addiction that's driving that, Jeff. Like, so you're not physically addicted to crack cocaine. Okay. So if you run out of crack, or if you don't have crack, and if you don't have any more money, you know what I mean? Like, your instant thoughts ain't just to go rob a bank because I'm about to go through withdrawals here and die. Because if you run out of fentanyl, you run out of opiates, you have to get some kind of help. You have to get something because your body can't take the withdrawals, you know. So the mindset behind that drives you to do different things, right? You know, like
That's why we have methadone,
that's methadone.
That's
and
legalized fucking dope by the government, isn't it?
heroin.
to control the withdrawals and,
bring you
and to
down.
bring you off
People
of the
stick on methadone
opiates.
for the rest of their life.
Is it just
You
that?
have to.
That's their own choice. You can get off of methadone.
But-
There's a program for you to wean you off of that. It's not designed for you to stay on for your whole life.
But a lot of people do, and that's what I mean. The government's just making money off the methadone. The government is financing. Well, they finance all drug shit just about anyways.
right.
But the methadone is just our government's way of getting their share of people getting off of dope, and they're taxing it finally and getting some money out of it. Is that pretty safe to say? Do you know anybody, James? You know anybody that's been on methadone that got off methadone?
Yeah.
Do you know people on methadone that are still on methadone though?
Yeah.
And they will be forever.
Decades
I
later.
know some that I know some that were on it for Cody Duncan, man. Cody was on it for.
I wasn't going to mention no names.
Hey, Cody was on it, and he's one of my cousins, man. He was on heroin for a long time. Then he got on methadone for a long time. Then he got to selling dope, and his life spiraled out of control. He was on methadone for about 14 or 15 years. He's off of it now. He's clean now.
What are the
He's living a
percentages
clean
of
life
people
now.
on methadone that get off, you think?
I don't know. I don't know what that is. That's again, there's the physiological addiction is what drives that, because like I said, it's not the same as.
I understand where you come from that, but sometimes it makes you wonder if the government's not replacing a drug with a drug that they're getting their money off of.
I don't doubt that. I don't doubt that they don't care.
I'm getting the look from the attorney over here. I'm pretty close on that one, ain't I?
I don't know, but
It makes sense, though, doesn't it?
it depends on how long you're shut up in a hunting lodge, coming up with these ideas. I don't know.
Right.
It makes sense.
Am I
He
putting
doesn't. He doesn't have time to think about these conspiracy theories, Jeff. He's busy fighting crime.
That's a different level.
Let's talk some crime stuff now. I grew up in Wichita Falls. We had a lady cut her baby's heart out when I was a kid. Do you remember that, James? Mm-hmm. No, that happened in probably around 1980, 78 or 80. She cut the baby's heart out. Said she was possessed.
He was in the early 80s. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that. And we had the serial killers.
Said God told her to do it or something.
Yeah,
or
that's exactly what she said.
Yeah.
They're the devil told her to, or what? But she
yeah.
cut her kid's heart out and shit.
I've never heard that story. I'm not from Wichita Falls, so I haven't heard.
Yeah.
It was a black lady. I'll never forget it. I mean,
82.
It was 82 when it happened. It was a bad deal. And then we had the serial killers.
Fair and Wardrobe.
And he turned out to be a. Did y'all have anything to do with any of that?
Y'all.
You.
Not me. That
Your
was
office?
Yes. In fact, the guy that broke the case, that was John Little. He was our chief investigator. He's the one that went down to Alney and got the spit cup.
There you go, Andy.
I told you. Don't fucking if they take you in to question you, don't drink
They
the
weren't
coffee.
questioning him. He just watched him drink it outside. Is
Don't
that
drink
right?
the coffee. Yeah, I'm gonna burn this.
John
What am I
asked
doing?
him. John dipped. John said, "Do you have a spit cup I can use?" And he saw the guy went to the trash and got the cup that he'd been drinking Sprite out of. Gave him the cup, and he took it back to the lab, and that's got
8 months later, they finally got the guy.
longer than that on that case.
Yeah, well, back then, it took a long time to get
And he
him
was a
there.
preacher, wasn't he? Wasn't he a part-time preacher also?
I don't know about that. I read the book, but
Hey, so
Preacher-ish.
Commune following.
oh yeah, one of
Now,
those
David
guys.
Koresh type.
Yeah, they're the only people that have
But
sex with their
the-
followers.
but
I
the
figured
guy-
out. Yeah,
But the
Nobody
guy
else gets laid.
that they thought did it, Danny Laughlin, went to prison for something else, and he died in prison. But everybody just knew he was the one that killed that. Terry Gibbs, I think was her name.
Nurse.
let me ask you this: do we have more or less serial killers than we did a long time ago? Because if you look at because Dahmer just came out on Netflix and I watched it, and it's 4 episodes too long. That's beside the point. But we had Dahmer, we had Bundy, we had Gacy, and there's this period in America where every headline's about the next serial killer. You don't see that anymore. So is it that was a problem then, or did the media just perpetuate this idea that there's a serial killer, running around everywhere? Is it a media perspective, or is it yet still a problem today?
Or do you
If-
think
if-
they've taken some of the media coverage away so that they don't use that as a driving force, right?
If-
So the killer itself doesn't.
if there's anything evil in this country and wrong, it comes and is a product of the media because they're gruesome themselves. I don't know. I know there's a big serial killer thing going on in California right now with a guy
Really?
who they just caught.
I did not know this.
Yes, this as of last week. They think he's involved in
I've seen that.
multiples of 10 murders, and he's just randomly driving around shooting people.
Kind
Then they caught him.
Zodiac killer. Kind of like him. I think that's what he did. He'd go to Lover's Lane.
I can answer this question. It's about money. In the 70s and 60s and 50s and 40s and 80s and 90s even, we didn't have internet. If you wanted to watch the news or read the news, you read a newspaper. So if the newspaper gets you hooked, in Wichita Falls when we had a serial killer, then we had the serial rapist, it was in a newspaper morning and afternoon.
On the
Guess
front
what?
People
People picked up people that didn't read the newspaper
Yeah,
went and bought a
sold
newspaper
newspapers.
every freaking day. People turned on KFDXT and TV and watched Lynn Walker at KUZ or whatever it is because they wanted to know what was going on. Everybody watched the news. When that serial killer was there, the whole town was scared to death.
Right.
But they sold papers and shit on it. So the same shit happens today.
It's just
But
we've got
nobody-
enough bad news that we don't have to stoop to the serial killer level.
You
Hey,
can
it's not
pull up.
shocking anymore, is it?
Yeah.
It's not shocking anymore.
there's
It's like,
nothing
hey, there's a serial killer. You're like,
this town.
And that's one of my questions with fentanyl. Is this just a progression? Like Jeff had mentioned earlier, we had marijuana, then we had cocaine, and then crack, and then meth, and now we're at fentanyl. Is it just going to be a progression of worse and worse and worse and worse and worse?
Probably.
Lord, I hope not. What's the next level after fentanyl, man? It's just 10,000 times as strong as morphine.
People don't respect life. A young person that's
No.
17, 18 years old that's on drugs, they don't respect life.
We just talked about this on the way.
They don't. They have no respect for life at all. That's why they kill people. That's why they shoot people. They kill themselves. They don't care because they live in a video game world.
Desensitized.
Right.
Yes.
We,
Yeah.
just, we
They
had
think
this
everything's a
conversation
game.
driving here
Smartest guy
today.
I've talked to in a long time.
Yeah, thank you. I tell people that all the
They
time.
think everything's a game.
Yeah, nothing. There's not a reality to it. They don't see when anybody in this room watches Armageddon. Now this is way off there, and he's going to send the dad goes in to save so his daughter can be happy. Until you have kids and you're crying at that because you realize what a good moment it is. Because I watched this with the boys when they were like 12 or 14. Andy, why are you crying? That's
Called
so
him a big
stupid.
old pussy.
You're a big old pussy. You're crying over that shit. When you get kids, you'll understand. And
I watched
sometime-
I watched it the other day, and it brought a tear to my eye.
Yeah, it does. But you have to have kids. Well, these fuckheads that we've got growing up now, they're not going to have kids. They'd rather play video games than have sex. I've never played a video game as good as sex, but I'm guessing they must have some now. That's all these young people want to do.
More 30-year-old women don't have kids than have kids today. That's a real
Yeah,
statistic.
yeah, and it's going down even more. Yeah, people don't want to.
They just
people
don't.
want kids.
I mean, first of all, can you imagine life without your kids? No. Could you imagine how much money you'd save if you never had kids, though? So on one end,
imagine.
those kids are saving a lot of money.
Play a lot of video games, and I don't like my sex. I'm going that route every time.
Oh, now I'll spin out real deep. But
I don't.
you know that one of the hallmarks of a declining and decaying society is lack of childbirth, lack
Yeah.
of
Lack of what?
childbirth.
Childbirth.
We've been below replacement since I think 1972. Mm-hmm. Elon Musk said it's going to be the greatest. That's the greatest threat that we face is that there's not going to be enough people in 100 years. I think Japan's not going to be here. Germany's not. There's a bunch of
Japan and
countries.
Italy won't be here by 2038 or something. I mean,
It's
like
close.
it's getting close to where they're going to be so lopsided that they're going to be paying people to have sex to have kids.
But part of the problem in Asia was because of the one child rule. You can only have
yeah.
one child, and then nobody wanted to have a girl. So
The more we mess with it, and
Right.
the more you mess with natural order,
yeah.
You're telling me
the more
you're
screwed up things seem to get.
sure treading into thin ice in
So
the territory.
okay, so hold on. Now that brings up a good point. If we would have just left people to their own devices, would we see kind of what we're seeing now? If we'd have just said, go smoke pot, go do that, whatever, have fun. Has our restriction on a lot of these things pushed people to where we are today? You don't think so? He's shaking his head back there. No.
I don't think so.
No.
No.
So you think if we didn't have the restrictions in place, we might have seen this 50 years ago or something, or just as soon as the dope hit the market?
No, we ought to break out the beer and talk about this. But
Yeah.
I mean, how far do you go? How far?
Right, was this-
Okay, I don't like the way he looks at me, so I'm going to shoot him in the head because I want to.
Right.
I have no restriction. There has to be restriction.
Well, I think that's where religion has come in a lot of places because it civilized people in a way that we were not civilized before. Before the Bible came along, I mean, it was just like you said, I don't like him, so
Even after the Bible came along, it was that way for years. We didn't see a civilization until
1900s, you think? Even in the Old West
I'm going to
days.
say 1940 somewhere where we
think
really
that?
become civilized. There had a lot of shit, after World War II.
Yeah, right after we
before
became
that,
polite.
before that, we had there was still a lot of riffraff going on. up
And we
in-
still shit in a pan. You know what
Yes.
I mean? Yeah.
I mean, even in the Wild West out here, there were,
You
saloons.
mean you're just
and-
talking
Right.
about might makes right, and the strongest is going to.
But studies show back in the Wild West days, when it was an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth,
you were a lot politer.
they didn't have as much.
Crime level was a lot lower.
It was.
Shit, yeah, it was.
Because if you fucked with somebody, that's going to just shoot you between the eyeballs.
A
So people
dangerous
respected each other a little more.
A dangerous society is a polite society.
Sir.
If I'm worried about James jumping over
Respectful
this
society.
table and strangling me to death, and there ain't nothing that's going to stop him,
Now he's got a gun over
you
there.
tend
I'm
to be
gonna
respectful.
I'm gonna be pretty nice to James.
So what
You
are
know?
you saying? So
So maybe I'm wrong.
I don't know if you're wrong or not. It's
No,
just,
actually, he's just supported your argument in a
I
way.
did.
If you think about
I
it,
know.
That's why
yeah.
he's a prosecutor. He got me to
Right.
he got me to do
Yeah.
my own argument.
He also listens a lot. You let people walk themselves into traps. Let me tell you something right now. If Dobie comes to your house to interview you, shut the fuck up.
yeah, don't talk. Get a lawyer. I'm gonna tell you.
That's the one you got to be
Call
worried about.
Call Stacy.
Please. Yeah, call Stacy.
Call Stacy.
I'm all for
Dobie's
that.
at my house. Talk to me.
I want to know when you're at trial, is there a moment that you know this one's mine? It's in the bag, or are you always until the
Yeah.
You don't go to trial unless you think you got it in the bag these
No,
days.
there's a moment when I know. It's when the judge takes the form from the jury and she reads it.
That's the
when
moment you know.
That's the moment.
So
Until
know
then-
till it's done.
Even open shut cases, you still worry
until
about
then.
The moment I start doing that's the moment I need to start looking for another job.
Yeah,
when you're not
I
worried.
agree.
Because you got to find an edge somewhere.
Complacency's bad.
Right.
Thanks.
Sure it is.
You've got
Especially
to
in
be.
that. Especially
You've
in
got
that.
to be. Nobody's shooting at you in the courtroom. I hope not.
Sure.
But
But
your
it's
head,
2022.
but your head's got to be on the swivel all the time.
Do you? Let me ask you this now. This is a family deal here now. You and your wife have completely different jobs, but y'all have the same job.
Correct.
But y'all are on both sides of the aisle. She's going to get paid to represent someone that's guilty as hell. Every defense guy, attorney does. Have you ever asked her and thought, you know, that some bitch is guilty as fuck, and you're taking his money, but you want to see him get off? Did you ever ask that?
Jeff, that's pillow talk.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Yeah, that's definitely.
Yeah, we've had spirited debates.
That's what
on
I
the
meant.
theoretical level at the dinner table. That happens quite often.
Because I hear people all
Listen,
the time.
I think
bitch.
that would be great. That seems like that would make you. That seems like that would
Sometimes
just
it's
make you a
probably
better
not.
lawyer, make you a better prosecutor if having a different perspective like that.
Yeah,
That
but
seems like a great thing.
But when I've had people complain and they'll bitch about an attorney sometimes. Well, go dang, he's getting paid blood money to get somebody. The guy that got O.J. Simpson off. O.J. Simpson's guilty. We all know that shit. But he was found innocent because his legal team done a really good
Yeah,
job.
Kardashian.
But they got paid to do that. But that's their job. You know, it's blood money, but that's what they're getting paid for.
And now we have the Kardashians.
So from
That's right.
from a prosecutor perspective, would you ever ask OJ to put on the glove?
Looking back, no.
The answer as a prosecutor, you never ask a question you don't already know the answer to.
Right.
So no, I wouldn't.
And I'm assuming you've studied the case, but they told OJ not to take his arthritis medicine because they knew his hands would swell up, and even if the glove had not shrunk because of all the blood that was on it, he would have had a hard time jiggling it in there. And then there was a little bit of
Why would you
theatrics
let
on
him
his
just
end.
do it himself?
Right.
I mean, I don't.
And he had on plastic gloves over his hands
And?
to not put his.
He was doing that. You
Right.
can see if you watch the video, he's doing that
Yeah.
the whole time.
So from your perspective, that's a hard no.
Hard no. And as soon as it happened, I would have been on the phone trying to find a leather expert somewhere to explain what was going on.
Right.
The best thing on Twitter is when that dumbass gives his opinions on court cases and stuff in here. And, buddy, this is not for you. You need to just go play golf, and you're lucky where you're at right now.
You get a lot of run out of it, though.
Oh, my God. I'm telling you. It's just crazy. What do you we can't talk. There's one case I wanted to ask you about we can't talk about because it's still going on.
Here's what I want to ask you. So I was spouting fake news, according to Jeff, about the one case. Is that frustrating on your end? Hearing people that read an article from a respected news source in
What is
Wichita Falls,
respected news source?
in Wichita Falls, and it turns out to be incorrect, as Jeff was telling me it was incorrect. Are you just like banging your head against the wall, like,
No,
no, not at all? That doesn't bother
I
you?
was leaning back. No, I'll tell you why.
Yeah.
I got a lot of friends in the media. It's part of the. It's good to have those relationships.
Mm-hmm.
I quit reading the news about 18 years ago because I can't stand to read it.
Just because of the inaccuracies?
Correct.
Right.
And even when they don't try to, they have time constraints. Maybe they don't sit through the whole thing. They don't know what happened, and it doesn't fit, and it's just there's way too much effort expended to have to unwind it. So I just don't pay attention to it. So it doesn't bother me. Now, what does bother me, I shouldn't say this because never let them see you sweat. I can't. It is hard to take the numbskulls on social media.
Yeah, that's where it's all
Yeah.
at too.
Right, and I'm not talking about the reporters. I'm not.
No,
I'm
you're
not,
talking about Joe Public.
correct.
Yeah.
That's what's hard to take.
We had an issue in town here when I was mayor, and the news people came. They had to come. They wanted to come talk to me, and you can't talk about nothing. It's real simple. It's an open investigation. Can't talk about it. And that was the bottom line to the whole deal. Well, we went through this one time, and then the lady calls me at the house again. She's a reporter from Abilene, and I told her, I said, "Have you ever done any background on these people that are telling you all this stuff?" Well, no. I said, "Why don't you do a little investigation on the people, and you'll find out the quality of people that are telling you all this bullshit?" Because what it was a complete lie about stuff, and they were trying to make a city employee do, look that it was so false. It was all fabricated shit. And I said, after you do some backgrounds on them people, then call me. I said, because everything you're telling is bullshit. I said, I can't talk about it, but I'm just telling you, do some background research on this shit, and you'll find out for yourself that all you're spewing is a bunch of lies. It's not true. Lady called me back and she said, "Well, you were right about that." Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Well,
don't-
they want to reflect their agenda. They're agenda driven.
I don't have a tattoo, unlike my buddy over here.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have a single tattoo. I'd have to buy ink and 5-gallon vats to cover my body. But a real savvy political figure that I'm fairly close to said he doesn't have a tattoo either. But if he did, he'd have one thing tattooed on his body. He put it right here on his wrist. Don't read the comments.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think that's smart. I think it's
Sure it is. Yeah.
You can't win, and you shouldn't debate them. There's no reason to debate. Your big case that you're doing right now with that they've moved out of town for y'all has been one of those cases where the child, and it's the murder trial, and it's your friend James, his son,
James Staley.
That guy right there. That has been social media, and everybody's blown up. Now I don't know anybody involved in this deal at all, but I know that people have taken sides 90% or to 99% on one side, and then they wonder, well, by God, they had to move it out of town. That's bullshit. Well, yeah, the guy's got to get a fair trial, regardless. I mean, whether he's guilty or not, I don't know any idea what's going on. But I told someone that was bitching about it, I said, "Do you really, really think they would file charges on him if they didn't have a case on him?"
I don't think they would.
No, they
No,
wouldn't.
they wouldn't. Absolutely.
But people don't see that part of the deal. Well, the cops took forever to get it done. Yeah, because if they go to trial and they don't have their shit done, then the guy gets off and they can't try him again. There's no common sense, but I think it's because we don't have enough civic classes.
Well, yeah,
it,
maybe.
it ties into your OJ, and I can't talk about the Staley case.
Yes,
I'm not
of course.
going to.
Right.
It kind of the same thread ties back into the OJ thing. If it were my kid that was charged with some kind of crime that was that heinous, or any it doesn't matter.
It's your kid. You're going to do whatever you can to help them.
No, I want them to have a lawyer.
Yeah, of course. The best one you can get.
The best one I can get, the one that's good at their job. And if I don't think they can get a fair trial in Wichita, then I'm going to ask them to move it someplace else.
Anybody's going to do that.
And a lot of folks lose a lot of perspective when there is a highly, highly charged, emotional
Of course.
case. And I understand that. We all understand it, but we still got to deal with it.
Due process.
Absolutely.
There's Colin Davis trial. Did you study that in law school?
No.
Guy in Fort Worth, multi-billionaire, not billionaire, millionaire. I sound like Joe Biden now. Multi-millionaire. The Colin, I think they done diesel engines. Colin diesel engines. Anyways, he had his wife killed, or she had him killed for money. I can't remember the exact stuff. But anyways, that was a big case. It was on WBAP back before internet. And it was radio, and that's all they talked about on the radio every day, and it sold newspapers and stuff, but it was a high-profile case.
Advertising on WBAP.
And Colin Davis, they've got him the best attorneys they can, and I wish I could remember the details because it's a really interesting case, but it's like that all the time. Charles Manson. Anything that's high case, if you can afford, you're going to get the best attorney you can get.
If you haven't watched it, I
What's it
will.
supposed to, though?
I will make a plug for one. I didn't watch Dahmer.
I didn't either.
I don't. What's that?
The first couple episodes were okay. And
That's
then
like
it
me
got-
Were
watching.
those the episodes with all the blowjobs in them?
No. It's
Oh God, Andy.
it's not that. But it was pretty. The cops screwed up in Milwaukee. They gave a 14-year-old kid back to Dahmer, and then he died.
Have you watched the documentary? I think it was HBO. The one on
Charles
Robert-
Manson?
No, Robert Durst.
No, is that good?
Who's Robert
Oh my
Durst?
Oh
God!
yeah, it's wild, man.
Who's Robert Durst?
He died.
Man, he might have been a multimillionaire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's a real estate mogul or publishing mogul out of New York. Came down here, went to get. You got. I don't want to spoil it for you, But there was a really prominent Texas defense attorney that defended him in a murder case in Galveston, and he got off.
Really?
I've seen that show, and the attorney, and I'm trying to think, is it name? Was it Racehorse? Was that the
No.
attorney's name? What was the attorney's name?
How many episodes?
Harden.
Is it a series?
Yeah,
or
Rusty Harden.
10.
It's Tim. It's Robert. It's the baseball player's attorney also,
Yep.
and Deshaun Watson's attorney.
Correct.
Yeah.
Rusty Harden. Yep.
And it's so well done. And I'm not trying to make them money or anything, but it's so well done. But you watch the last episode, and it will freak you out.
The Robert Durst case.
Yep.
How many episodes is it? Do you
About
remember?
10.
Okay.
10.
I'll check it out.
Because there are multiple murders in it,
Right.
Yeah, there's several. Yeah.
and he did get acquitted in Galveston. He had a roommate, transgender roommate, whom all the evidence suggests he killed and dismembered and threw him in Galveston Bay.
Mm-hmm.
And it's something else.
Now, were you a judge once upon? No.
Nope. I ran for judge. I did not
ran-
win.
You didn't win.
Did not win.
God bless you.
I've been seeing that guy that ran over all those people in Wisconsin.
Oh, the guy's building the boxes so that he can
Yeah,
see the judge.
yeah. I feel bad for that lady. She's hot, by the way. Jennifer Dowers, I think is her name. She's a very attractive lady. But this guy, he waives his right to have an attorney, so he's representing himself. It's a train wreck.
That's the worst.
It is a train wreck.
It's the worst. No, I haven't seen that. I haven't followed it. I will tell you, as a lawyer, trying a case against somebody that's not representing himself, that is about the worst. Your worst day in court.
He interrupts. He yells at the judge. He got into a stare down match with her. He was building boxes. She said, "We're taking recess," because he's not broken his gaze from me. I mean, he's just looking at it with hate in his eyes.
Didn't he take his clothes off one day?
I didn't see
I think
that.
he stripped down to his drawers
But
one
you
day
can
in there too.
so like everything that this guy does, they pan to the prosecution and they're just like, are you fucking kidding me? And the judge is like trying to get him up to speed on what his rights are and what he shouldn't do. And the prosecution is just like, oh my God, here we go again. Mm-hmm. So finally they moved him. I think they're getting ready to read the verdict and they moved him to a different room.
Henry Lee Lucas. He never did commit a murder in Wichita Falls. It was in Ringling, right? I think that's right. But I don't even know why I bring up his name. All these murders in Wichita Falls becoming a little Chicago. It seems like it's every week. It seems like there's a murder, and it's not that often.
It goes
It
back.
seems that way.
Where's the cop when you need him?
Doing a podcast. It goes back to your
Well, lately,
respecting life.
they haven't been murders. Lately, they've been deaths, just straight up deaths.
Yeah, but I'm assuming, and we talked about this earlier, but most of your murders are all over drug deals. Most of them, aren't they? I mean, 90% of them is a drug deal, something gone
kind of the
bad.
common denominator.
Big percentage of them.
Yeah. If you took alcohol and drugs out of the system in the country right now, crime rate would be about 4% probably.
Well,
because
for
that's a
the
common
first 3
denominator.
months, it would go off
it'd
the
be
charts.
horrible.
But after we dry it out,
Yeah. I mean, it's amazing how much shit of that is related. Your traffic court's the same way. I mean, that's the majority of all your stuff. And to be a police officer, I feel sorry for you guys because they make y'all work so much on little shit that shouldn't even be counted. It's so hard. It's harder to be the law is set up for the crook these days, the criminal.
Well, they've got every advantage.
They do.
I mean,
I'm gonna let Andy finish this up. My grandkids are gonna be at my house, and I got to read The Great Pumpkin to the second grade class in Knox City. So
good luck, sir.
thank you very much. It's nice meeting all of you guys.
Nice to meet you.
you can
nice
sit.
to meet
You
you.
can sit right here, and then we can finish this up. And
Love you, big dog.
what do you remember what we were talking about earlier? That you said he left at the exact wrong time, by any chance?
Yeah.
What was it? You got a good memory.
Do you think COVID contributed to a
That's
rise in crime in Wichita Falls?
I do.
Just because everybody just went stir crazy, and it was just this. I've got to do something, and I've got all this.
You've pinned everybody up. You've taken away employment, work. They have nothing else to do other than sit around and think of
Plot.
things to get into. Same thing with even like in law enforcement. Distance yourself. We got to keep everybody safe. We got to have the police safe, so we don't need you getting exposed to you and stuff like that. And it just made everybody take a step back from everybody. And I think people had more idle time on their hands, and I think it's going to affect us for a long time to come because we've taught kids that are in high school it's okay. You don't have to come to school. You don't have to work.
Right.
You know,
giving them participation trophies and all
Yes.
that. You know, you enable them to
All
be.
that
You
has-
enable them to be a mediocre person. You know.
The I can't remember Jeff might have remembered, but the Wichita Falls Independent School District lost hundreds of kids. They're just not on. They just quit coming to class, and then they can't account for them. They have no idea where they are even today. And like you said, there's no account there. I mean, my goodness.
Listen, man,
Now more and more less accountability.
they got some kids now. What's up with the Furbies?
Oh my goodness.
That
Have
shit
you
blows
hadn't
my
seen
fucking
this?
mind. You don't know what that is?
There's-
What the
There's kids that
Come on,
they
dude.
demand a litter box, and that's where they're going to go
and a
instead of going to
fucking
the
litter
bathroom.
box in the school, and they want to be treated.
And
What,
I don't know, but
dude?
the problem is, I'll tell you what the problem is. We got rid of bullying
How
too,
the
too
fuck
soon.
you gonna let that happen?
We
There's
need
no
more.
way, man.
We need more bullying, is what we need, and I'm going to go on record as saying that, like, because the problem would just take care of itself.
Right, it
You're
would.
going to be a Furby. Well, James is going to thump your head. You're not going to be a Furby in front
I'm
of
gonna
James.
clown till I go see Dobie because I'm gonna get in trouble for it. I guarantee you, they're gonna send me to see Dobie because I'm gonna clown. We're gonna clown. My friends are gonna clown, and you're not gonna go around acting like a cat, and that's ridiculous to me. And you know what gets me about that is they tell us to accept it
Right.
and to ignore it, and so if my grandson's over here staring at this kid like, you know what I mean,
right.
and then you know, they get mad because my grandson's staring at me like, well, that you're not normal.
Right.
That's not normal.
I saw a video, and I think this person might work in the White House, but it's a transgender person, and it's a trying to get this right, transgender female, so it's biological male wearing a tight skirt, and he is on camera saying we need to normalize the bulge and let children know that
Yeah.
some women will just have a bulge whenever they're wearing tight clothes. It's like no, we don't need to
no,
normalize that.
No, that's
There's
bullshit.
something I can be tolerant to a lot of things, but I'm not going to tell my 8-year-old, yeah, you know, some women have a penis. Like, it's just
not doing
I'm
it.
going to go with what biology says. You're either XX or you're XY, and that's it. If you're XY, you got a penis, and if you're XX, you're going to have a vagina, and that's the end of the discussion. But yeah, I mean, they're calling this person a champion and all this.
Yeah,
other stuff.
that's fucking. I'm making him a hero. You're a hero now for stepping out like that. Give me a fucking break, man. That's a hero. That's
Right.
hero.
Right. His knowledge blows me away. Like the way that he knows how these things affect the body and just everything from top to bottom. I mean, are most guys like him, or are most of them just kind of numbskulls? Because I mean, he's very, very sharp with his analytics on things. And is that kind of why you were drawn to him?
I was drawn to him simply through happenstance and fate. I don't think he had a lot of fond feelings or things to say to me in court.
Right.
I'm not trying to bait him into saying anything right now.
No,
So-
we wasn't in the same position that we are now. Though.
No. And so when he left out of that courtroom, it took a little bit of time, and he did what he had to do, and he did well. Fate stepped in, and he was fortunate. I think he was fortunate to get a job where he got a job, and that's how it all worked out later. So I didn't know this side of him on that side
Right.
of prison, so I had no idea. I have met other folks in the life through doing some of the things that he was doing that are intelligent, and they had some snap to them. I've had plenty of them that I've spoken to or seen or had interaction with that are, you know, dumber than pond scum.
Right.
It's all kinds of folks.
Because we've talked about this before. Like, if some of these criminals could just be legit, they'd be millionaires.
Right.
But I think the lifestyle and the fast cash is what appeals to so many people. Because if you look at crime, most of the time you grow up in your late 20s. So most of your criminals are in their early 20s, statistically speaking. And it's just this fast lifestyle and almost a Peter Pan syndrome where I don't have to grow up. I can just sling dope, and 9 to 5 is not for me.
Yeah.
But if some of these people, and I'm sure you were the same way, if you could have channeled this in another avenue.
Well, I have, and it's worked out for
You
me.
have,
know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah, you have now. But if you would just started
I've
out with that
actually literally
mindset.
done that experiment with life, you know. So yeah, and
Right.
I see what you're saying there. Yeah, absolutely.
There was another guy, one of the very first, I will say, for Wichita, big time dopers, big time cooks that I prosecuted. He was living fast.
Yeah.
In fact, when I took him to trial, I had 5 different labs on him, and we were trying him on 5 different labs.
But I know him.
I bet you do too. I know you know. And I'm not going to use his name, but he got a big old sentence because the community then was feeling about meth like they do about fentanyl now, although they're more scared of fentanyl.
Yeah. Rightfully so.
But
Yes.
the jury popped him, not because of me, just because they saw 5 different labs. So they popped him. I had an opportunity to talk to him about 15 years later, and he was going to make parole. Completely different in physical appearance, lost all his hair, got old. And I actually went to a prison and talked to him. And he said, he wasn't glad he went to prison.
Mm-hmm.
He was not happy about it. But he said, I now understand what I lost.
Right.
His kids, his life, and he was going to get out of prison and try to figure out how to scrape together something on the. And I thought he was very, very, very sincere. I don't think he was telling me what I wanted to hear. He was going to try to scrape it together and make sure that he never went back.
Right.
And so it was okay. He was all right.
Yeah. How long did you do, James?
Which time? The last time?
The last time
I
you
did
got to see
3
Dobie?
years and 3 years and 4 months.
3 years and 4 months. And then that was when he sent you, that was one that he sent you away for?
He sent me away every time.
Every time. Yeah. So how many times did he send you away?
3, I think.
And is that pretty common to see the same?
No, he's real hard-headed.
A lot of times one will do it.
No.
It's repeat offenders.
It's really strange, too, because a lot of guys, he would know.
You know,
They come back, they don't have any place else to go.
Right.
And they're going to make the same choices. And so they're just, I'm not suggesting a revolving door. That's not it at all, but they don't learn.
You know what that did for me though? Is it established a relationship with even though at that time we didn't like each other, right? But I'm gonna tell you that when I was doing some sincere decision making when I was in the penitentiary, something he told me when I was standing beside him in front of the judge in the courtroom is the very thing, maybe the second thing, or only one of the 2 things that I considered when I was making that decision was a talk I had with him. That's the difference and at that time we wasn't like we are now. We still was not
Right.
But I knew, like I said earlier, he was fair and reasonable man. You know what I mean? I know he's got to do his job. So it wasn't about a personal thing. And then when he said what he said to me, he didn't have to say that. The man could have gave me 30 or 40 years easily.
What did he say to you?
I forgot exactly how it said, but I think he looked me in the eye and said, first he said, I could give you a lot more time than this, and I was like, yeah, and I was like, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And then he stopped me sincerely, made me think about, look me in the eye and say, what are you doing here, man? You're better than this. That's all he said. And that was it. And then when I was going through my deal, when I made parole in truck driving school, and I needed a sign from God, figure out what I needed to do here, man. I didn't want to make the wrong decision, And I remember him looking me in the face and telling me that, and I don't know why that made a difference to me. I don't know if I felt the sincerity from it, and that he was being real with me and seeing something in me nobody else ever has, or what it was. But I considered that thought in my head when I made that decision to stay in the penitentiary and continue on truck driving school, So the relationship that I established with him, even though it wasn't a good one, right? It was a familiar one,
Right.
You
met under bad circumstances.
right? But it also enabled me to later on in life, when I met up with him again, to shut my fucking mouth and listen to what the man was saying. You know what I
Right.
mean? And it's done a lot for me.
And you're in an interesting position, both of you are, because you don't want to see the same. You want to see everybody succeed. I mean, you want people to get on the right path.
It's going to sound stupid. It would be great if I didn't have a job.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Exactly. Yeah. Like the world would be a much better place if we didn't need you to. It's not the world we live in, but it would be a great world. But, so many people are like, well, these people are just out to get me. It's like, no, they're just doing their job. You're a shithead and they're catching you. Like, that's what it boils down to.
Right.
They're not out to get you.
Exactly.
They're out to get people like you. And at the end of the day, you want to see the people go in, do their time, and become a productive member of society when they get out.
tie it back into fentanyl. I was thinking about this when I got up this morning, knowing I was going to come talk to y'all.
Yeah.
We are going to do our absolute best. Maybe I butchered it talking to y'all about our plans and how we're going about it. But we are going to do our absolute best to hunt these people down because they pose a threat to our community. They pose a threat to my kids, to his kids, his grandkids. They are dangerous, and we have to do our job.
You got to run the offense.
Absolutely, and we're going to do it without.
Got to be proactive, not reactive.
And that's the problem with law enforcement. We're always reactive.
Right.
Always reactive.
Right.
But we're going to go find these people, and we're going to hold them accountable. We're going to do it aggressively. We're going to do it whatever we can do within the bounds of the law to make sure that we do exactly that, because they know what they're doing,
Right.
and they don't care.
With the crack epidemic, do you see a similar path that we're going down as far as we're all chips are on the table? We're going to try to mitigate this as much as we can, or is this even beyond what you saw in the 80s with the crack epidemic?
Yeah, this is a more
Aggressive.
total criminal justice system approach. Great cooperation with the Wichita County District Attorney's office and our agency, and we're going at this. We are going to do everything we can to educate and deter people from touching this fentanyl. If you have fentanyl and we find out, we're going to throw your butt in jail.
Right.
Under the jail.
Exactly. Whether it's for possession, whether it's for delivery, whether it's for delivery to a minor, whether it's for murder. We're going to do whatever we can to incarcerate you for an extended period of time and take you out of society.
Hey, Sarge, let me ask you, the I don't know if you want to call it the class of people or the part of society that's affected by this fentanyl is so much broader.
It's everybody.
Right. That it was
There
with
is
crack.
no one demographic.
It seemed like with crack or with meth or even with heroin, right? There's a targeted audience, right? With this shit, it's not like that, bro. It's not. It's
Everybody.
Like my wife has never done a drug in her life. You know what I mean? And people they're scared to death of this right now.
I have been. I've got 2 little kids.
There's so much ignorance involved. Yes, absolutely, man. And that's kind of what this whole thing is about. Is to show that we can all come outlaws, the laws, the outlaws, the in-laws. You know what I'm saying? Everybody can come together on this. That we need to all understand that if we don't do something about this now, everybody in this room is going to be affected by a death from somebody from fentanyl at some point.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes, sir.
And first, I should have said when we first started, I really appreciate y'all having us on.
Yeah, absolutely.
I
I've
didn't
been
say
looking
that.
forward to this.
I meant to
You're
get that
welcome,
in. Yeah, I appreciate it. Y'all are a hunting show,
Yes.
outdoorsman show.
Mhm.
How did y'all? And I know he's been on before and talked about his story, but how does y'all have expanded into current events, lifestyle?
I ran out of things to talk about in the hunting world.
Yeah, but it's almost deer season.
So when we first started this, it was going to be kind of this how-to and tips and tactics on how to hunt, and I mean, everybody that hunts, that makes up a small percentage of most of people's lives. Most people are just a casual hunter. They'll go out on the weekends, or everybody will go out opening weekend or whatever. Everybody's got somebody that they care for, and a lot of the stuff that we talk about. It appeals to more people. So fentanyl is something that everybody's scared of. Everybody loves a comeback story, which is why we had James on. Everybody loves that outlaw. So we just started, it was real simple. We started talking about one thing, and then we just kind of started expanding until we are where we are today. Like I don't want to be just a hunting podcast. I want to be a podcast that somebody can turn into. It's funny, we had a guest on one time, and he said, he was telling his wife he was coming on. He's like, I don't know what we're going to talk about. We might talk about trannies, Jesus, or hunting. And I'm going to be prepared for all 3.
We hit all 3 today.
We did, yeah. But it is. And I wanted this to be kind of like we're all sitting around, like you're getting an inside look at a duck blind or something like that. And when you're doing things like that, you very rarely talk about hunting. You talk about fentanyl. You talk about football. You talk about transgenders. You talk about everything. So that was kind of my vision in doing this, and it is. And I want to be informed as much as I possibly can on certain things, and I want to speak from a position of knowledge and not just what I saw on Twitter. Like Jeff had to make me stop talking about the one case because evidently I was wrong, but I want to know things and I want to be able to speak about things intelligently. And the only way to speak about things intelligently is to talk to people that know it, that are seeing it.
And I don't know when you're going to cut this up. I don't know when you're going to air
Be out
it.
tomorrow.
Okay. So make one plug.
Yes.
Do you mind?
Please do.
For the folks in Wichita, next Monday, our judges, district judges, specifically Judge Bernard and Judge Kennedy, are sponsoring this fella, Dr. Dowd. He's the director of DPS lab in Houston and probably the statewide expert on fentanyl, on the pharmacological effects of fentanyl.
Right.
He is going to be giving a talk free of charge at 6:30 at Memorial Auditorium in Wichita. He's also coordinating that. They're doing a 3-part presentation to school kids on Monday and Tuesday. And so in between, he's opening it up for the public, and it's free. I understand that it's opposed to a Monday night football game,
Right.
But it's still something that it's available.
Yeah.
And it will scare the pants off folks.
Very educational, though. It's
Right.
What
Very-
will I realize that there will never be zero fentanyl. I know that's probably the goal. What would victory look like to y'all from the seat that y'all are sitting in? Is it zero? Like we're not stopping until it's zero? Because I mean that's a lofty goal. But what would victory, like we're sitting here today and you could have a reasonable outcome. And I know,
For the word to be out there enough to, if you overdose on fentanyl, you had every opportunity to know the dangers of it, to know what was going to happen to you, and
So you make it an educated decision.
make your
it an
educated decision.
10
Because you're not stopping it. We
No.
learned that with
No.
everything.
marijuana. We learned that with cocaine. We learned that with methamphetamine. You're not stopping it. The only thing you can do is educate people and let them know that we live in a society of laws and there's right and there's wrong. This is wrong.
Yeah.
And on the personal side, this is deadly.
Right.
And you guys are in a bad position too because y'all fight and battle every day. What we're talking about here, and y'all are out arresting folks like me or whatever, that are in at this level. Meanwhile, I'm dealing with folks above y'all at that level that don't want it gone, right? And those guys are y'all's bosses. And so it's just a vicious cycle, right? It just goes around. And they're not ever going to let you do away with it. You're trying like hell to do away with it. And at my level, they didn't want you to do away with it. You know what I mean? So it's a vicious cycle. So like he said, the education for this, get your mind away from stopping it completely and get your mind towards educating people about what it is, what it does, how it's going to make you, what it's going to do to you, and what your future can be. If you have a future.
Right. So more so have the families be aware of this is out there. We're not going to stop it, but maybe it won't go to your family because it didn't have to. And maybe if you would have sat down with your kid, what are you advising parents to do? Like, don't have your kids, obviously don't do drugs, but like, what are we trying to educate parents on? Like, are there any signs? Are there any, obviously no parent wants their kids to be doing drugs, but what are we telling parents?
It's going to sound silly.
Yeah.
Tell your kids, you do not take a pill from anybody.
Period.
Unless it's coming from me
Right.
or your doctor.
Right.
It's pretty basic.
Yeah.
But don't go to a party and don't have a kid say, hey, take this bar. You're going to feel real good.
Mm-hmm.
You would tell that, but we need parents to say it regardless. They may not have said it before.
Right.
Well, of course, we don't want our don't do drugs. Great.
Right.
What does that mean?
Right. And that's kind of like when these seminars, that's why I asked you the question that I did when, we go to these, y'all are going to these schools and telling these kids, and it's like, they've heard don't do drugs forever. Like this, to a lot of kids, like this is like, oh no, shit. Like don't do drugs.
And don't be in denial about it.
Right.
Like here in Knox City, America,
Right.
Like it ain't gonna
where
be here.
your average cotton farmer parent
Right.
probably don't think that fentanyl's a danger to my kid.
Right.
And it
is.
is. He goes to one party in Wichita, in Abilene, in Lubbock, or wherever, and it gets passed out, and He's dead. Everybody needs to have the education and have the conversation.
Agreed.
Yeah,
I don't know what else you can tell kids except make them. You have to make them understand a pill can kill you.
How do you know what scares me about this as a parent and as a grandparent? You know what I mean? And you know my story. I've been directly involved with it. I mean, I've done them all, right? I've never been able to spot a fentanyl abuser, right? Like I've never, like you can see it. You can go to this Walmart, you can see somebody on dope, right? Or you can see them on this one.
You kind of know what
I've
they're
never,
taking.
It always fucking surprises me when you see them in the fucking obituary, or even, you know what I mean? You see them and they're dead from it, and you're like, what?
By the time you can see them and recognize them, they're way gone.
It's scary, ain't it?
Yes.
There's no fucking telltale signs of they're on it, right?
You can see somebody and you'll know, like, oh, he's
on dope,
this,
he's on
or-
coke,
You
he's
can
on
tell, like somebody on meth. You can tell somebody on meth.
Right.
Yeah.
Not
fentanyl.
yeah.
I mean,
Nope.
it's like fucking crazy how hard it is. It blows my mind, man. And it's just it just creates such a barrier for y'all, because that reasonable suspicion, it goes out the fucking window, man. You know, like these, how can a cop be reasonably suspicious of somebody that doesn't look like they're doing anything wrong? You know, doesn't have, and you know how hard it is to find that little bitty fucking pill in somebody's car, you know?
What do they look like whenever they are? When you encounter somebody that is on fentanyl, is it ecstasy that they're feeling? Is it just is it a zombie? Like what are the physiological effects on somebody that has taken?
They're
fentanyl?
hardly lucid.
Really?
I mean,
So
they're
just
just
out of it.
but they think in their mind that they've got this heightened sense of
Of everything.
everything
Awareness,
going on, but it's not. They're barely
They're docile. Really, that's it.
drool coming out their mouth and everything like that.
Whole
And if
lot
you
of
s-
weed.
Yeah. I mean, so is that what you're showing kids at these seminars? Is just what are you showing these kids? Are you showing them this is you when you're doing fentanyl and you're slumped over and?
No, basically what you're showing them is that little blue Percocet,
That's
saying
what you're
if
showing
you
them.
take this, it will kill you.
You will die.
You'll
Right.
show
Best
them
thing
the,
you could do for them, in my opinion, now they'll never do this, is to stand them in front of an autopsy table and let somebody watch them autopsy a 16-year-old that took a fentanyl pill.
Yeah.
That's where it gets real
Yeah.
to that age. You have to make it real to kids
Right.
nowadays.
Agreed.
They just don't take the word of an
Especially
adult.
because, like we was talking about earlier, with the video games and all the other ability to actually separate their virtual reality separates their own self from the real world now. They think that shit's
Yeah.
real, man.
Right. And that's where I think the don't say no to drugs thing failed, is it did not make the problem real enough to a lot of people.
No.
It was just don't say no to drugs, and it stopped at that. Whereas
We tried to taper it to society norms back in the 80s, you
Right.
know,
Yeah.
and now you need to be real with these kids. That's what they understand,
And you need to be very specific, too.
and very specific. If you put that pill in your mouth, there's a good chance you're going to die.
Let me give y'all a little reference here, man. From my perspective, when it comes to that, they started that don't do drugs, just say no to drugs, blah, blah, all that stuff that generation has grown up with, us as a generation have grown up with. But then you got kids now that see their parents taking pharmaceuticals all fucking day from the first moment they wake up in the morning, all that. And then before they leave the house, they tell their son, don't do drugs.
Right.
Now he's trying to figure out, well, what fucking drugs are you talking about here? Which ones are legit? What am I doing?
Right.
So you got to get very specific
right.
with your conversations with them about what you're doing, what your approach is, what you're trying to do, by telling them what you're trying to save them from, and it's these talks right here, I guess, are the best way I can think of to come up with that kind of information, because I don't know how else you would get it,
Yeah. The pharmaceutical war is one thing that scares me, is just because, like we've talked about, like everybody's taking pills. Like that's nothing new. Little Johnny sees her his dad take 4 and his mom take 7 just to, get up and get going in the day. And, it's just, we're headed down a weird road.
It's also a societal norm. I mean, when we grew up, say growing up in the 70s or 80s or whatever, your parents didn't take Xanax 4 times a day just to kind of cope with it.
Right.
We've made it normal.
Right.
And I'm not bashing pharmaceutical companies. Some of them do good things, but we've made it normal just to feel good. I don't like the way I'm feeling. I don't have enough energy. We'll take this.
Duck those feelings.
Well, this gets me too much up. We'll take this. This will get you back down. And we've made it normal, really, to look for a pill for an answer, and just like he said, they see their parents in this type of behavior. So, what's the difference between prescribed medication and him giving me a pill? So he said, "I'm gonna feel good."
Especially that kid don't know.
He wouldn't lie to me.
Right? No,
I'm still looking for that one weight loss pill. That would be nice.
it's a lie.
They got him.
It's a lie. Yeah, meth, right?
Got him from the 90s.
Came with a little pipe.
Listen, we've gone on 2 hours here. It's been very educational. I really do. I appreciate this sit down talk, and it has been. I don't feel like we really sugarcoated anything, which is what I wanted to have happen. I wanted to have a very real conversation with a lot of people and we got every angle of this covered. I think we got law enforcement, we got the prosecution, and we got the guy that was, left that life. So I think we've got it covered. Anything else you gentlemen want to say?
Well, to any listeners or anybody involved, in the show that wants to, that has any questions or anything like that, is there something we could plug in for that?
Go to the meeting on Monday.
Yeah,
I mean,
we need folks there.
kind of the whole purpose of this is the
We are still trying to figure out how the outreach is going to work.
Right.
But we are available for any groups that want to have a talk about it. I've already done a few. Just a matter of getting in touch with the DA's office in Wichita Falls, and we will set something up.
right.
I do know, and I have talked to multiple families of, unfortunately, victims that have passed, and they want to know what we can do, and we are looking into multiple cases right now, and we are open to talking to anybody. If they need to know something more, they can just call the DA's office in Wichita Falls, and we'll talk.
And if you don't want to call the DA because you don't feel comfortable with that, then you're welcome to call an outlaw.
Call an outlaw. He'll get a hold. When did this become, okay, we got to do something right now? When did we push the chips to the middle of the table and say, okay, we're going on offense? Was it 6 months ago? Was it a year ago? Is there a turning point?
Probably started about a year ago. Yeah, because I do the death investigations. We started going out and we start seeing this. Ooh, toxic effects of fentanyl. Toxic effects of fentanyl. Well, then it goes from your 45-year-old doper that's been addicted to opiates because of whatever chronic back pain or whatever, and then you start saying, ooh, 23-year-olds, toxic effects of fentanyl, and it
15,
just
16.
goes down. This is a problem. Like I said, we never dealt with really a big opiate problem in our area, and it's just, you're like, wow, what you read is not just complete BS. This is a problem. This is a big problem.
Yeah.
So the 45-year or the older person that would die from fentanyl, is it because they can't afford the drugs that they were prescribed originally?
Well, they got to a point where they were passing out. Doctors would write you an opiate prescription for just, I've got back pain.
Right.
I've got back pain. Well, they've kind of tightened that up, and now to get certain drugs that they used to just write on a 90-day script or whatever, now you got to have a triplicate prescription, got to go to the doctor every so getting those prescription pharmaceutical grade opiates is either more difficult or it's not possible for them anymore. So when it's not possible, it's an addiction.
They're
it's
gonna go to
a
the street.
physical addiction. So
Go to the street.
you're going to go to the street, and you can go to the street and get whatever you want. And once you're on it, you're on the ride for.
Was that a mistake? Having I mean, I can understand. We want to stop the pharmaceutical crisis. Was it a mistake to get these people addicted and then be like, oh no, never mind. Now I need you to check in with your doctor and get triple verification that you need this medicine?
I think they're probably looking back on some of that, wishing they maybe had done something different as a whole. The entire
had it difficult to attain. To
right,
begin
or
with.
made it a little more, or controlled it or regulated it on a different level than they have. I think even the pharmaceuticals companies are probably looking at that, going, well, we might have fucked up here. You know what I mean?
Right.
But
a little careful with prescribing them rather than
right, or a little more regulation or something about it. I think they probably feel like they messed up.
I'll tell you, back then when they could do it, you still had overdoses. You still had people the
still had
fentanyl
knuckleheads,
patches.
man.
Right. Yeah.
You still had people taking those fentanyl patches with their time release dope,
Chew 'em up.
putting them in their mouth and chewing them up, or taking a blow
I've done
dryer
it.
and
I've
putting
done
them
it.
on it. Yeah,
I chewed up fentanyl patches before.
that's dangerous.
Man. Yeah,
Really?
I've done it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I got a different level of
Tolerance.
right. I'm you know,
If it's not yours, don't put it in your mouth.
but it's not. It's a bad thing. It's
Right.
a bad deal, right? It's bad.
But because I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but like there's soccer moms that are addicted to like methamphetamine and stuff because they couldn't get their prescription anymore, so
And
they
you-
turned to the street.
Yeah, and you can get
Absolutely.
You can't get methamphetamine, but you can get amphetamine. That same feeling, just as easy from an Adderall prescription as
Absolutely
you can
can.
from
Hey, if you know anything about
taking pseudoephedrine.
chemistry, then you'll know that that Adderall is, I think, one molecule off of what anhydrous amphetamine is made out of.
Yes.
Really,
One molecule off.
and that's the one that we're gonna
They
give
keep,
everybody.
That's the one the government keeps in there as an inert molecule to tell the people that it's not amphetamine. Because it's got that.
and that's what Adderall is.
That's what it is, though.
Oh man.
But it's also in a regulated, controlled environment. You know what I mean?
So there was-
for the most part, it has its benefits for the people that need it for that level.
So
Like
I
what he
listen to
was just
Dr.
saying.
Peterson a lot, and if you don't, he's a psychologist. But anyway, and we'll close with this. If you take rats and you deprive young male rats of physical touch, rough and tumble play, their prefrontal cortex does not develop, and then they start exhibiting behavior that you can correct with Adderall. So if you take this a step further and you look at how much Adderall is being prescribed to young adult males, and if you look at their home life, most of the time it's because they did not have that one-on-one interaction with a male figure.
Yep.
So it all circles back to we got to get our home life right.
Yep.
And then we can start fixing some of the problems in society.
Natural order.
Exactly
Natural
right.
order. Natural order. All right, gentlemen. I think they got burgers for us in there, so we will end it there. It has been an absolute pleasure talking to you guys, and I hope that this makes a difference. I hope it saves just one life. If
Me
it
too,
did,
man.
then we've done our job. So it's been a pleasure talking to you guys, and let's go see what they got for us in there.
Absolutely.
Thank y'all very much. Let me close this out.
Right on.
All right, boys and girls, go check out all of our sponsors. Listen, if you want Dirty Duck Coffee, now's the time. You can go subscribe. It'll show up right to your door, or use the promo code Big Honker, save 15%. Bangtail Whiskey, Stanfield Hunting Outfitters, Ducks Unlimited, Double T British Kennels, Alpha Outdoor Specialties, Looking Glass Podcast, Lucky Duck, Shin Gear Waders, Gundog Outdoors, Pacific Calls, Dive Bomb Industries, and Boss Shot Shells.